Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Village Board of Trustees meeting. It is November 19th, 2012, and if we could all rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If our clerk could please call the roll.
Trustee Sidor?
Here.
Trustee Blackwood?
Here.
Trustee Breyer?
Here.
Trustee Farwell?
Here.
Trustee Glasgow?
Here.
Trustee Hayes?
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Here.
Trustee Scaletta? President Mulder?
Here. We have a quorum. We move now to item 4, and for those of you in the audience, there are some blue slips at the back of the room. If you wish to address the village board on any subject on the agenda or under citizens to be heard, we request that you complete one of these and get it up to the clerk up here to your left, and she will get it up to us. And with that, we'll move to item, there are also copies of our agenda in the back of the room as well. We're on item 4, approval of minutes. First, we have the minutes of our Committee of the Whole meeting, which was held November 5th, 2012. I'd ask if there are any comments, corrections, deletions, or additions.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Trustee Farwell, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Any other additional? Yes, Trustee Glasgow.
Pass.
A note the pass for Trustee Glasgow. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item B, approval of the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting held that same evening, November 5th, 2012. Again, comments, corrections, deletions. Note the pass for Trustee Glasgow. Motion by Trustee Rosenberg, seconded by Trustee Sidor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move to item 5, approval of accounts payable of November 15th, 2012, and I'd call on Trustee Hayes.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move approval of the payables in the amount of $9,103,423.44.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Farwell. Any comments or corrections from or questions for staff? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience? Roll call.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. One of the traditions that we have sort of followed over the years is anytime any of our high school teams achieve third place or higher at the state level, we like to bring those teams in and recognize them. St. Viator High School is certainly not a stranger to our council chambers, especially if I recall correctly, it's a lot of soccer and a lot of tennis, or not tennis, golf, a lot of golfers. We really want to acknowledge them as a school that really embraces sports, but take it quite seriously and have achieved a great deal. It's with great pleasure that this evening we want to recognize the members of the team. Coaching is always important, but it's that individual work when it comes together on a team sport. It's one thing to be an individual athlete. It takes a lot of skill to be a part of a team. You have to have a lot of skill and a lot of teamwork. I'm sure the coaches drummed that into you quite well, because obviously a team cannot be successful unless that type of teamwork, doesn't matter who puts that ball in the goal, just as long as it gets in there. And you hope that on the other end, your goalie is keeping all those balls out. So I'm very pleased, and I believe that your achievement as the boys' soccer team from St. Viator certainly is a stronghold of soccer in our community. And we're very pleased that you again achieved that level. Soccer seems to have been something, and it must have something to do with the coach, and I understand that Coach Taylor has returned to his native area and has left it to Brian Dahlquist. who's here this evening to assist me in handing out some certificates on behalf of the Village Board of Trustees. I think we all can sort of almost remember when we had some athletic skill, but we truly continue to appreciate it. So, Coach Dahlquist, if you can meet me down here, I'll be right there. Okay, we've got an assistant to the assistant here.
I'm Brian Dahlquist.
Oh, you're Brian, and...
TJ King.
Okay, who's going to do the talking? All right. If we could have you come up as each, and then we're going to line you all up here so we can get that great photo op.
All right, first up, our goalie, Michael McGrath. Miles McDonald.
Congratulations.
Kyle Sukowitz. Spencer Moore.
Okay.
Mateo Ludo. Kevin Klinkenberg. Ross Randon. Ashwin Cornelius.
Thanks, Kevin. Ross, congratulations, you're tall.
Jack McNamara. Ryan Henry.
Whoops. Like this.
Michael Dazinski.
Sidor.
Ethan Wolf.
Congratulations. Michael? Thank you. Okay.
Kevin McMahon.
Ethan, I have
John
whoops.
John Serdam.
Second one there.
Troy Wheeler. Mark Tunn.
Nick? No, this is Kevin. Congratulations, Kevin.
Nick Winter.
John?
Dominic Peroni.
Troy? Art?
Nick
You guys all
Eschbach.
in front of school one morning. Congratulations, Nick.
Juan Ramirez.
Dominic, congratulations. And Nick, congratulations. And who do we have here? It's Juan.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, these guys are here.
For the project, we'll call you up when it's
Did we miss anyone?
I'll keep this because this helps me.
Okay, we had a few that couldn't make it this evening, but is this a handsome group or what? Yeah, get those photos, you know? You want to say something about the season?
Just really quick, we've had our banquet already, and we've talked about the season and how great it was. One thing I just want to reiterate to these guys: at the end of every year, when we see our boys with gold hair, we know it's been a good year. It's a tradition for us to dye the hair blonde, and that always means it's been a good and successful year. We had our open house at St. Viator a couple weeks ago, and a couple of these guys were giving tours for me, and I had to explain to a couple families, I promise it's a good thing that their hair is dyed blonde. But on that note, this group, what a great group. They really represented our school and our city, our village in a really great way. A great bunch of accountable, respectful, hardworking kids that really, to me, signify what St. Viator High School is all about. So it was an honor for me, I know for Brian and the other coaches, to be part of their run this year, and I congratulate them on that.
Here's your captain. I need the captain here. Come here. You.
Yeah, I got mine.
Oh, it was attached to someone else's.
Yeah.
All right. Can you give us your perspective as the captain of this great team? I mean, do you like these guys or anything?
Well, yeah, definitely. It's a great group of guys. We've been together for like a solid amount of time now. We were together all summer in the off season, working hard. And throughout the whole season, we had a lot of challenges, but we overcame them. And to make a great playoff run just feels really good. And to end the season on a win, it's just great. I don't know.
How many teams do we have, Coach, in the state?
Hundreds? I'm not.
Hundreds. So, you know, third place, you know, everybody wants first, but second and third, and there's not a lot of difference between second and third. Sometimes second can lose to third. It's just how the flip of the coin sometimes, and how the roster comes out in how you play. But gentlemen, I hope you're very proud of your accomplishments. I know there were probably days and nights when parts of your body didn't want to talk to you, and that you really missed some maybe social events because you had to practice and you had to get your rest. But hopefully those things, now you know why you do those, because it takes a team that's fit and mentally ready to perform together as a team. It's a lot more difficult to win as a team sport than it is an individual sport, because you have to work with everyone. So let's give these gentlemen another round of applause, and congratulations, St. Vitus. Thank you, Coach. St. Vitus is a great asset to our village, so thank you, gentlemen, very, very much. And you got wonderful.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
I think I can just stay here. Next item, I'm going to just stay up here, and I have some recognitions here of members of our boards and commissions, and many of you may have been present at a meeting or watched on cable. From time to time, we're appointing residents to boards and commissions, and we have approximately 18 commissions and probably close to 180 residents who volunteer to serve. This very board, we have members who came from some of those commissions, housing or plan commission and many others. And it takes a lot of people to have our village run smoothly and listen to projects. But after they serve for a few years, they say, well, I think it's time for someone else to get this great experience. And unfortunately, not being able to attend tonight is Dr. Zimick, who served and chaired our Board of Health, not just for a few years, for a physician and resident. He gave us 21 years, and 3 of those years he was chairman of the Board of Health. Also, Glenn Schimmer, unable to be here this evening, gave us 7 years as a member, and I spent the whole hour getting into the city on the train today talking to him. So he enjoyed it but needed to move on. He spent 3 of those 7 years as chair. Also, Steve Treblinski gave us a year with Citizens with Disabilities Commission, and Angelique Gunderson gave us just slightly less than a year for our Arlington Economic Alliance. So if we could have a round of applause for those individuals who have stepped down from their public service. We have 2 individuals that are with us this evening, and I'd like to first call up Ann Kimberly. And I know she has family, so let's applaud really loudly for Ann. Ann served on special events for 12 years, just a couple of years. And I think I knew her before 12 years ago. We happened to have children in school together, but I'm a lot older. I got to make that point. I'm honest, okay. And we've worked together, and Ann has been an incredible person on our Special Events Commission. They're the ones that put on the main event, Autumn Harvest, Hearts of Gold, and there's one more. What am I missing? Oh, the tree lighting. Oh, the one that's this week. And then they do a recycling event. There's special events. And I've been told that everybody that's on special events enjoys it because you have fun.
The party people?
Tell us a little bit about
No, we're just, as a group, we just all connected. And we were, I get a little weepy. We didn't just work together, we were friends. and it was a cohesive group.
You
always.
should talk about that more, because I think that's one of the keys. You get to know people that live in other parts of the village when you're on these boards and commissions, and suddenly it's not just your neighborhood or your part of the town. We forget Arlington Heights is 8 miles long. Asked Trustee Rosenberg, he said, how many people ever get up to Terramere? Where? Oh, well, you know, Lake Cook Road. Or those who live in Surrey Ridge down by Interstate 90 and Algonquin Road. So sometimes you make a lot of great friends because you have something in common. You have the purpose of that commission, and you work together to make it as most effective. And then I got my own little mic here, yeah. And what's wonderful is that they do a lot of downfield blocking. Many of these commissions are the precursor of someone who eventually has to make it up to the village board for approval. So it makes our job a lot easier. And I'm very, very pleased. You know, sometimes people move out of town, and that's a problem. But I think your heart is still in Arlington Heights. For your 12 years of service on the Special Events Commission, your dedicated participation enhanced the quality of life of all who live in our community. You deserve the highest praise for an impressive accomplishment. This certificate of recognition is presented to you in appreciation of your generous, thoughtful service to the citizens of the village of Arlington Heights. And Ann is one of the most creative people I've ever known. So congratulations and thank you, Ann. Oh, she doesn't want to say anything, but I'm going to give her the box. Okay. Thank you. One more round of applause for her. We also have Carlin Cochran. Come on up. Carlin has been on that really popular zoning board of appeals. That's when everybody wants the fence a little bit higher than our code says, or they want to move a garage a little bit closer to the property line, all of those things. And she's part of the group. I think there's 7 of you that have to decide. And let's see, who came from there? He was a chairman for a long time, Trustee Glasgow. They really are tough. They look at the code, and you better have good reasons why you want to bend it. But Carlin has served 11 years for the village of Arlington Heights. And for your 11 years of service on the zoning board, we want to thank you for your dedicated participation in enhancing the quality of life of all of our residents and those who live in our community. You deserve the highest praise for your impressive accomplishment, because it's tough. Someone gave me an advice that don't ever appoint anybody that hasn't lived over 10 or 12 years in the village, because you got to know the neighborhoods. They all have their own little unique characteristics, so don't mess with them, kind of thing. The certificate I'm about to give you on this plaque is a recognition in appreciation of your generous giving of your time and your thoughtful service to your fellow citizens here in the village of Arlington Heights. So, Carlin, congratulations. And we're going to miss you. Thank you so very, very much. Your comments.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, because likewise, I think I just really enjoyed like driving the whole Arlington Heights and knowing the little back corners, and you really see what a special community that we live in, and it is a town of good neighbors and people that will work together and compromise for the overall best and stuff like that. So you really see it working. And
do we give you any consideration for the mileage you put on?
No, that's okay.
No.
I rode my bike.
Oh yeah. Here, thank you, Carlin, very, very much. Let's hear it for Carlin, as well as Ann, and the other 170 people who help us keep this village going and support the village staff. It's always fun to take time to represent people. You hate to see them leave, and they always say, well, I'm going to miss it, but, you know, it's time. So we all come to that conclusion at some point. So we really, truly appreciate the service of not only these that are stepping down this particular year, but all of those who are continuing to serve. That concludes our recognitions and presentations. Mr. Dixon, no public hearings this evening. We do have citizens to be heard. Art Ellingson, if you can give your name and address, please, into the microphone, would be great.
My name is Art Ellingson. My address is listed on the blue slip, but for public record, I'm giving the address of Post Office Box 2 in Arlington Heights because I have a stalker. And if my stalker reads my address in the paper, that could put myself in danger. I want to address the board to remind you guys to make sure you get a really big plaque for Arlene when she retires. She has also done a yeoman's job of running our village for the last 20 years. And she has really done a good job. So make sure you guys don't forget that. The next thing I want to mention is two quick things, is that I'm also the founder of the Arlington Heights Tea Party. I want to just share with everyone that T stands for Taxed Enough Already. It does not stand for Lipton, although there is a slight connection with Lipton when you talk about the Tea Party that was held in Boston Harbor back in 1773 or something like that. But we are committed to the village. We're still around after the election. We're going to be focusing in on the local elections between now and April, and we're helping to look for the best qualified people to run for the various offices in our village, both on the village board as well as the various other elected boards, such as the Park District, the Library District, as well as our local school boards. And we're here, and we're going to be an active voice in this community, and we encourage all citizens to help support us as we look for the best qualified people to help run our community. And I also want to mention that I learned for the first time, and I guess it's because I've been so intent on the federal elections that I kind of lost track of everything going on here, but we were surprised to see in the paper the plans for a new $40 million police station. And we are very concerned about that. We want to let you guys know that we are concerned about that, because we don't think that this is the right time to spend $40 million on a new police station, or $40 million on anything for that matter. So we just want to let you know that we're still here, we're still looking, and we're at the same time we're grateful that we get to use this room. Every other month we're here, typically the first Thursday of every other month. The even months we're here, the odd months we're typically over at the Hendrickson room of the library. So we appreciate that, and we are looking forward to many more years of a great quality of life here in Arlington Heights. Thank you.
Thank you, Art, and thank you for your kind comments, especially about the use of this room. There's several rooms. Mr. Dixon, I don't even know how many we have that different groups are allowed to use. They have to sign up. We have to know what their group name is. But maybe you can share with those who might be watching this meeting or here tonight what you have to do if your club or group wants to have a meeting here.
Mayor, thank you. It's relatively simple. Just call the manager's office. We have 4 different rooms. If you have some connection with the village, either as a business or as a resident, we'll be happy to try and accommodate you. I've come into the building sometimes prior to 8 o'clock, and I'll find a group already meeting. Obviously, they're meeting before they're going to work. So it's wonderful. This building belongs to the community for groups to utilize, and they are taking advantage of it. So don't hesitate if you have a group that is pinched for a place to meet at some point. Give us a call, and hopefully we can accommodate you. Thank you. We have 2 others, and Art was very good because he knows about the 3-minute. I forgot to remind you, we would like to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and the clock up there usually helps you out. Our second request to speak, no, that's on a session, and the other 2 speakers want to be on a agenda item, so I'll call you up when those subjects come up. That was Chuck and Frank. Is that okay with Chuck and Frank? Okay, very good. Well, that concludes then citizens to be heard. We have old business. We have a report
from our Committee of the Whole meeting, which was held by the Board of Trustees on November 13th. A number of motions were made, and they are to be, again, made at a public meeting, such as this evening. So I'm going to call on Trustee Hayes for the first motion.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move at this time, as I did that evening, that the Village Board approve the adoption of the groundwater control ordinance for the property at and around 1133 South Arlington Heights Road, with the condition that the applicant record the ordinance against all of the affected properties.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Farwell. Any other comments from trustees? I don't know if anyone from the audience was here for this motion. Seeing none. Voice vote, Mr. Siegel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move to our second motion from that evening, and again, I'd call on Trustee Hayes.
Just by very brief introduction before I make the motion on this item deals with the fiscal year 2012 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, essentially an audit of our financial books and financial status. And it's a pass-fail grade. We don't get graded on any kind of letter grades or percentages, but it's a pass-fail, and I'm happy to report that the village did pass with, I think, flying colors. The auditor advised us at the committee meeting last week that the village is in sound financial health, largely due to the village's efforts to hold the line on expenses over the past few years as a result of economic conditions. So with that favorable report, I would move, as I did that evening, that the village board approve the 2012 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and it be accepted.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Any additional comments? Voice vote on this as well? Voted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item, in reference to the 2012 property tax levy. Trustee Breyer?
If I could make an introductory comment, I made this motion after listening to the staff presentations regarding the various cost increases that the village has experienced, as well as their enumeration of savings they've made over the last several years, because they have eliminated a number of positions in the village budget, which we should recognize, and maybe in the course of the evening they'll spell out in greater detail. But the basket of goods and services that the village buys does increase. Fuel is up considerably. There's cost of living or CPI increases that we experience, and we can't be blind to the fact that a dollar buys less this year than last year. And in my, but the big elephant in the room is the cost of pensions that 10 years ago were 29% of the budget, and now they're 40% of the budget. So with that background, that evening I made the motion, as I will this evening, to prepare the village and the Arlington Heights Memorial Library's 2012 tax levy ordinance, reflecting an estimated total tax levy of $43,648,850, or a 1.92% increase over the 2011 tax levy for the village and library portion of the levy.
I'll second the motion for purposes of further discussion this evening.
I understand that some of our astute financial minds on our board have worked and have some comments I'd like to call on Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. At our meeting last week, I was one of the advocates of that levy at the time and have given some additional thought to it since then. But but I just want to make a few other comments before that. The village has done a great job as far as over the past years trying to keep the line as far as expenses, and we've had very difficult times to deal with declining revenues and increasing costs. And as Trustee Breyer mentioned, the pension issue has been kind of thrown in our faces, and through no efforts by the state to contain them, we've had significant cost put upon us. But that's only part of it. And so, we've tried to do our best, and we've reduced our staffing over the years. I think we're down about 43 people since about 7-8 years ago that we used to have in the village, and we've 46, I'm sorry. So a decrease of over 10%. So, we've tried to contain the cost and keep that down, but with mandated increases in pensions and cost of living increases with the different expenses and fuels, as Trustee Breyer mentioned, we were having a hard time combating that, as well as with declining revenues that we've seen from the state. They're months behind in their payments to us, and income tax revenues that we've received have declined. So those are some of the factors that we've been up against. We're maintaining a healthy reserve right now. We have a good bond rating. I'd like to keep it that way, but at the same time, I would like to propose that we reduce the 1.92% increase to 1.2%. So instead of the projected $20 per household for a $300,000 house, that we would reduce it to $12. So it would be a 1.2% increase.
Trustee Farwell?
Thank you. I think one thing that hasn't come out yet in this evening's discussion already was last week when we were looking at this was not an up and down sort of issue or discussion. The discussion lasted, I believe it was close to 2 hours. And we were really looking at this, and we all wrangled over it. And when people say, well, it's $20 on a tax bill of an average home of $300,000. But we are only one of many taxing bodies, so that's $20 for us, and then what's District 25 going to do, and 214, and water reclamation. By the time you do it, by the time you figure it out, our tax bills really do go up. And I'd have to say, I'm appreciative to staff's hard work, not only just this past year, but through all of these years, with the reductions that Trustee Rosenberg was saying was evident. What also hasn't come out is through these hard years, we've been giving the administration requests or requirements to cut their departmental budgets by X% just across the board. Find it. We have taken cuts and listed them and then categorized them as far as which cuts would not affect services, which cuts would affect services minimally, and so on. So then that way, when it came to make more and more cuts, we needed to see, how is this going to affect our services? And we saw with the closure of the teen center and the discontinuing of the Too Good for Drugs program. These were all things, these were sacrifices that we as a village gave up during those hard times. So I think, staff has done a yeoman's job in helping us guide through these times, and I think along with working with the community, we've heard the cries and we felt them ourselves in our own homes that we need to keep our budgets at a minimum. This year we were looking at a suggested 1.92% increase, of which 1.2% would reflect just the cost of the inflationary items. And a majority of that was the retirement contributions, and then some CPI increases. But there was no real increase in staffing. There was no expansion of any particular department that caused this type of increase. This is just cost to provide what we already provide has gone up a little. But we looked at it saying, well, what's the difference between the 1.2 and the 1.92? What that was to help increase our reserve. Each municipality tries to maintain a reserve. It's like our own savings account, so that in hard times we are able to dip into it a little bit to provide the services. We're supposed to keep a minimum of 25% to 40%. Right now we're about 35%, and the 1.92 for next year would suggest our reserves to possibly go up to 37% as opposed to 35%. So I know I just threw a bunch of numbers, but we've been living them, so it's, you kind of, they go through your mind. Essentially what Trustee Rosenberg's suggestion is 1.2 reflects just the cost of increase, but not increasing our reserves, because our reserves feel like they're pretty healthy. And that if we do come across a more difficult time in this coming year, there are other ways to, we've got some cushion already in that 35%. And we want to maintain a healthy reserve ratio because it helps our bond ratings, which means we're not paying as much in interest as like municipalities that have less reserves. In other words, we're a good credit risk. So I would wholeheartedly endorse, even though the vote last Monday was a unanimous vote, I think in looking at this and in talking to the community and seeing, is this really the right thing to do, I think some of us have come back and said, you know what, it's the will of the people that we're, let's try to even cut it more. So I would be in favor of the 1.2% increase as well, because it does cover our bills, but it doesn't increase the reserve.
Thank you. Trustee Blackwood?
I think that what's been recommended is certainly a more prudent recommendation than it was last week, and certainly 1.2 is better than 1.93. But one of the questions that I had after the meeting was with Mr. Keeney regarding what would this actually do to the average business owner in Arlington Heights. We talked about $20 per household for residents. And when we looked at the statistics last week, it was interesting because I think, Tom, when you talked about the percentage of homeowners versus actual commercial properties, it turned out that we were closer to more like a 40-50%, 40% was commercial and 50% or over that was actually residential. And it looks like with the new numbers that you have, it's roughly 70% residential, 30% industrial properties. So the burden is in fact on the homeowner, but it would, in this economy, when we're trying to attract new businesses into the community, what kind of an impact will this have for businesses when it comes to their share of the tax burden?
And that's a question.
Please, yes.
Trustee Blackwood, when we talked earlier in the week about this, we had calculated what the residents would pay would be around $20 additional based on the 1.92. We did that same calculation for a drugstore, and I won't name the drugstore, but we just picked it with a property value of $1.6 million. To that business, it would be an additional $320 just because the value is more. We also picked a bank with a value of $2.1 million, and they would pay an additional $420, so proportionally more.
Now, commercial real estate people would ask you for a square footage estimate, but I know that when we talked about it, it was a little bit more difficult to get to that number.
Right.
Okay. I guess my position is, when I've talked to people over the last week, as both Trustee Rosenberg and Farwell and probably everyone on this panel has, there isn't one person that I've talked to that says, sure, $20 per household is a modest increase, go ahead, increase the real estate taxes. The answer was absolutely, do not touch real estate taxes. However, there are obligations, and we have to meet those, and those are the pensions that have been discussed prior to this, and some of the inflationary items that were discussed even before this when it comes to the basket of commodities that we use as a village. The reality is that there has to be some percentage of an increase to cover these so that we meet our obligations, keep our bond rating, et cetera, et cetera. I just wanted to make sure that it was on the record that not only are the homeowners going to be responsible for burden, you know, this share of increased tax burden, but it's going to be actually shared with the commercial folks as well. And the biggest problem that I have with that, and it's only my comments right now, is that as we try to attract and go forward, and maybe Bill Enright from planning, because he's been out and talked to people at various, or maybe you've gone to some of these fairs, Bill, haven't you, in Las Vegas when you talked to? Oh no, it's not a fair, it's a convention. I'm sorry, let me take that back.
And I haven't gone to Las Vegas.
And no,
I think it's Bill Enright.
Bill Enright. When Charles goes to these conferences and conventions and promotes Arlington Heights, are taxes a concern? I guess is a question. And Bill Enright, I don't know if you've been to those, but is that a part of a conversation that may have come back?
Yeah, no, I don't go to those conferences. In my role as deputy director, taxes are certainly a big issue with not only residential property owners but commercial property owners in Cook County, and they have been for years, because we have a higher tax burden on commercial in Cook County than in other counties around us like Lake and DuPage. However, having said that, a couple years ago the county changed the reassessment levels, and they reduced the tax rates for commercial properties from 36 and 38% down to 25%. And we've seen, and you know, Tom might be able to comment on this a little more clearly, but that has shifted somewhat the tax burden through the action of the county from commercial to residential properties in Cook County. And that's not anything this board has done, it's something that was done by the county.
Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, in terms of the shift of the tax burden from commercial to residential, yes. In the last few years, we've seen a lot of tax appeals, and a lot of those tax appeals have been on the commercial industrial side. About 70% of the total tax appeals are for commercial industrial properties. When you have those are much more numerous, but also much more costly. So what that's done is shrunk the EAV portion of the tax rate calculation for commercial industrial. In addition to that, a few years ago, the county instituted a 7% freeze for residential properties, which meant that their taxes couldn't go up if it was over 7%. And the way they did that was they artificially raised the homeowner's exemption. Now, 2 years ago, the state of Illinois said you can't continue that program, Cook County, so they need to phase it out. Now, what that means, and what we've been seeing the last couple of years, is it's going to play havoc on residential property tax bills, because now the homeowner's exemption is being shrunk from $20,000 to $30,000 a year back down to $6,000 a year. And it's going to be phased in over, 2-3 years, which we've already experienced 2 years of it. So what that does, in effect, is once again switch the burden of the tax levy from commercial to residential. Now, in the 2008 levy, you had mentioned this earlier, Trustee Blackwood, 60% was residential and about 40% commercial industrial. And for the 2011 levy, that's now up to 70% residential and 30% commercial and industrial. So there has been a clear shift.
Thank you. No further comments.
Yeah, just so I can continue on that, is Mr. Siegel or staff, I think we have 102 counties in the state of Illinois, and this goes back several years, but I remember that Cook County was the only one that had a separate rate, that there was a taxing rate for property, and it was the same rate for commercial as well. I believe that's true of Lake County, and that's why everyone said you want, your business in Lake and your home in Arlington Heights in Cook, because residents had a lower rate than the commercial. But what you have just shared with us, they're getting a little closer together.
They are getting closer.
We had a good deal, but it's slipping away.
Enright had mentioned, the commercial rate is now down to 25%, and the residential is 10%. So there's still a difference, but it is getting closer.
Trustee Hayes?
Well, I seconded the motion for the 1.92% increase last week. One of the reasons why was because of the report that we had heard just before we considered this item, and that was the report, as I reported out earlier, on our comprehensive annual financial report, and the comments from our financial auditor that indicated that we were in a sound financial position. And one of the reasons was because of the nature and extent of our fund balance. And so the reason why I was in support of the 1.92% increase was because it would allow us to maintain that comfortable balance in the reserves. I could support a reduced increase of 1.2%. My concern is that it is taking a little bit of a risk in terms of what might happen down the road, what might happen, what we might have to do next year if we do have a bad year financially in this coming year. And so I would prefer not to, go down to closer to 0% this year and then have to go to 3 or 4% for our residents next year if we have a bad year. So one of the other reasons why I voted in favor of the 1.92 is that it gave us some protection from having to make a larger increase down the road if we do have a bad year. But I'm willing to take that risk as long as we're assured by our in-house personnel that it'll allow us to maintain our very high bond rating and still maintain our comfortable reserves and sound financial position.
Was that Trustee Sidor and then come back to Trustee Rosenberg?
Tom, was that a question are you waiting for reassurance or?
Well, I heard some of it already, but yeah, if you want to go ahead and.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased with this discussion because I believe that when we were talking last week, Tom, you and I, at the Committee of the Whole meeting, we looked at 3 different scenarios. The proposed tax levy, if we didn't bump the reserve up a little bit, and then if we did a 0 tax levy. And at that time, I thought 1.2 wasn't too bad. And for the residents out there, we are in very good hands with our Finance Director, Tom Keeney. It's hard for me to sit here and question anything that Tom puts on the table to us because he's conservative and he's detailed and he's good. And we're blessed to have him. But in this case, but in this case, because this was an option that we discussed last week, and Tom gave us some very good answers on it and followed up with all of the trustees, I believe, I'm sure, that asked questions and pummeled him during the week. I'm happy with a 1.2 increase because of the fact, one of the reasons with what Trustee Blackwood kind of talked about was our recruiting of businesses. Tom, I think you mentioned at one point that we're sales tax, dependent as a community, so that we don't put the burden on the residents as much as as little as we can. And for us to recruit businesses, I think this sends a little bit of a signal to businesses out there that we might be recruiting, and it may help, the couple $100 or however many $100 that the village portion of the taxes won't be for next year. Could be the tipping point for some business to open up in town. So I'm happy with this discussion, and I would support the 1.2% increase. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Rosenberg, and then we're going to come down to this end.
Staff has put together some exhibits, so I was wondering if they could put those up on the screen for us. It kind of illustrates some of the things we've been talking about and kind of puts it in to graphics. The 1.2% that I proposed actually gives us zeroes out the budget. And so whereas at the 1.92% we had a surplus of $310,000. So with a 0, with no increase at all, we would have had over $500,000 deficit. So just to illustrate that. But take a few minutes for the system to warm up. We start with one.
There we go.
Well, we could start with one, or this is Exhibit 3, which shows a history of general fund revenues and expenditures. And you can see in 2009 and 2010, when the recession was going on, that's when the village had some deficit funding years. We also had to transfer some funds from other village funds into the general fund just to close. We were looking at that time of an $8 million gap. In addition to that, we to close the gap there during those years, we implemented a utility tax, and then, as the mayor mentioned earlier, had to decrease our staffing levels by over 10% during that time too. We have another exhibit that we can show you that. After that period of time, we've had some small surpluses in fiscal year 2014, which we're projecting now, which wouldn't start till May 1st of 2013. And yeah, that's where it is, Diana. That's where the 1.92% increase comes in. It was showing a small surplus, pretty much to maintain a fund balance of around 37%. The discussion that's going on now would be to have that 310,000 be a zero and have the general fund be balanced. The net effect of that is that the out years could potentially have some higher deficits, but I should say that this is a worst case scenario projection, so hopefully will be better than what we're showing right now. Did you want to see a couple of
the pie, the pie chart?
If we could see Exhibit 1 to start. All right, this is a pie chart of our 2011 property tax bill. It shows that the village's portion of the pie is 11.5%. And as you can see, most of the other pie is taken up by the school districts, around 65%. When we're talking about either a 1.2 or a 1.92% increase, it's only on the 11.5% of the property tax bill. So it would be quite a bit less than on your entire bill. So you want to go to Exhibit 2. And this is what we talked about earlier. I don't think we need to go through that again. This is what it was with a resident, a drugstore, and a bank. And we did see Exhibit 3 already, so if you could do 4.
Just to jump in for a second, with the change of their proposed 1.2, the numbers would be roughly 60% or so, I think, of that number, roughly.
Roughly,
yeah.
Yes.
$12 on the, rather than
12
20.
instead of 20, right. Now this graph shows how sales taxes and income taxes have actually gone down quite a bit in 2008 and 2009. That's when the recession happened. And these are usually our growth revenues, sales taxes and income taxes are. So to pay for expenditure increases in the general fund, you'd like to see this graph go up. Unfortunately, it went down, and then it's leveled off since then, and we're approximately $1.5 million less than we were in 2008, what we were in 2012. So that's opened up a gap, and that gap, once again, was filled in by utility tax and a staff reduction. If you go to the next exhibit, Diana, which would be Exhibit 5. I'm glad you're doing this. Thank you. All right, this shows the full-time equivalent staffing level for the village from 2003 and through 2013. And you can see what we talked about in 08 and 09. We acted very aggressively as a result of the recession. We were looking at a huge deficit, and we had to make very difficult decisions in terms of our staffing levels. And it decreased by 46 positions, about 10%. In a very quick period of time. It was mainly administrative positions that have been decreased during this time. So any further additional cuts that would be necessary in the future will likely affect core village services. because we have not replaced those positions that were cut. And let's see what else. I think that's, unless you wanted to see the indices that we talked about. But
No,
we're fine.
we thank you for
Sure.
that, Tom, and I think, you know, in any public agency, you know, personnel, as valuable as they are, they're the primary expense of our budget. And so you can see the decline was, unfortunately, with the cutting of some of the programs that were mentioned by Trustee Farwell. We used attrition wherever possible, but we did still have some departures.
Just one last comment. Despite the fact that the state has increased both corporate and personal taxes approximately 2 years ago, the municipalities have received none of that increase. So that has all gone to the state to try to cover their shortfalls, and obviously we've seen that that has not worked at all. So whereas you've seen our income taxes and sales taxes have declined, the state's went up, but you know, where it went, who knows? So just a editorial comment there, so just for clarification.
Trustee Glasgow and then Trustee Breyer, please.
Well, I concur with most of my colleagues here on the board. The discussions that I've had with people during the course of the past week that the meeting occurred, I mean, you have to be honest, nobody likes real estate taxes. Nobody likes taxes at all. But as somebody who has very spirited discussions in my own household regarding real estate taxes and pensions and how to fund them, I have to say that the review of what I've seen from Tom Keeney has been incredibly thorough, and I concur with what Trustee Rosenberg has said. You know, one of the previous trustees on this board said something when I first got on here, and I listened very intently, and when I was sworn in, it was a couple of weeks afterwards, and he said, we as government always get our money, and we do. If we pass a levy, we collect the money, right or wrong. So we have to be prudent and good stewards of the taxpayers' money and the funds when we go forward and when we set this levy. During the course of the time that I've talked with people, I've talked with them about what they enjoy about Arlington Heights, and they enjoy the quality of life. I asked them, what kind of price tag can you put on that? Not a whole lot of people could answer that question. And how much do they pay more in gasoline now than they paid last year or 2 years ago? We as government have the same issues, and we have the same expenditures. This staff has done an incredible job in the attrition and making sure that we have slimmed down this particular branch of government. You don't have near the level of employees that you had before, but you still have costs that are increasing for us. I don't know whether or not I'm in favor of a 1.92 at this point, knowing what I know now. And I'm sitting in a different position than some of these other trustees because I came in a week afterwards looking at this. But I think that a 1.2 increase to cover the cost is fairly prudent. I sat and talked with Mr. Dixon this morning and asked him to come up with alternatives and talk with him about alternatives. And the problems that I had with some of the alternatives were, we're not like the school district where we only have real estate that we can end up taxing in order to have an income. We have several streams of income, but such as sales tax or utility tax, but those are not really pro-business taxes. And as we sit right now, we can still deduct property taxes from our taxes. And at anywhere between $12 and $13 for the average home, property taxes I think are probably the best bet at this point for covering the cost and going to what Trustee Rosenberg is proposing. I think it's very wise that he took a look at this and that we've reflected on this, and that is a good thing that government works a little more slowly than the private sector. So I would be in support of the 1.2 basis. I realize the issue of making sure the reserves are there. It's our reserves go to our rating as a community, and that rating as a AA+ or a AAA, it's kind of like your own credit score. So when you walk in to get a loan Your credit score is going to play on how high your interest rate is going to be on your credit card or your bank statement. We as a village, because of our high credit rating, have saved you, the taxpayers, millions of dollars in refinancing and refinancing those costs that you once had, refinancing them at a lower rate. I believe that protects this in our credit rating. I also believe it is the least intrusive means of dealing with the cost increases. So I would respectfully agree with Trustee Rosenberg and support that.
Trustee Breyer?
Well, when you wait and put me at the end, I keep writing notes, but I see what the trend here is. And if everybody wants it to be 1.2, I'll amend my suggested motion. But before, I might have even been happier if we went in the middle of 1.5, but then we're really quibbling over pennies. Just to address one issue, one point that was brought up, we're still victim of the Cook County classification system. Are we not, where a home valued at $300,000 or a business valued at $300,000 pays 2.5 times in property tax what a home is? Is that fair to say, Mr. Keeney?
Well, yeah, the classifications are 25% and 10%.
So
yeah.
then it would be a $300,000 home, or a $300,000, a business valued at $300,000 pays 2.5 times more, right?
Sounds.
So the issue of the add-on of a couple $100 is almost minute compared to this Cook County classification system that makes things very difficult for a business to decide to locate it in Cook County.
That's true.
Now, you've all heard I'm involved in a business that has a substantial land size. We could never afford to have that business in Cook County and maintain the business in the fashion we have with Cook County taxes, which is why you hear of my miserable commute to Will County every day. But that is the fact. So when we talk about saving $200 or $300 to a business, that would never make much difference to the $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 more that a business pays for the privilege of being in Cook County. If we go to this lower amount, Mr. Dixon, are we able to do every flood control thing that we planned on, or every mitigation effort that we were going to begin with the lower funding?
Trustee Breyer, I believe the answer to that question is yes. This proposal basically affects the general fund portion of the proposed tax levy. The flood-related activities, which at this stage are at a study level, are funded from our water and sewer fund as well as our Flood 5 fund. Flood 5 fund will eventually run out. If we get into some major capital projects, which we will probably need help of a bond issue, but that we are not at that point yet. We do not have sufficient information to say that that's going to happen with any certainty. So to answer your question, if the board were to drop the village share of the proposed property tax levy from 1.92 to 1.2, it would not preclude addressing storm sewer related concerns.
Mr. Keeney, we have general obligation bonds out, right, at this
yes,
point?
Yes, we do.
Do any of them have debt service coverage requirements that would be jeopardized if with a lower tax levy?
No, we don't have any debt service requirements, coverage requirements on our GO bonds. In addition to that, we do have some reserves in our debt service fund.
So you're confident if in fact we have one new car dealer next year and the one that's been building forever really materializes and starts selling some cars there, how would that affect the deficit that's the following year that's not up there on the screen at the moment that you had projected?
Without knowing the exact amounts, I mean, if we have a nice increase in sales taxes down the road, hopefully that'll close the deficit. This is called an alligator graph, so hopefully it would close the mouth of the alligator on the out years, which is the deficit.
I have to just put in an editorial comment here, and not to, you can continue, but when we ran a shop locally campaign through our planning department, encouraging our residents to shop locally, and I know I was talking to different groups, and one resident said, "Oh my goodness, I visit my daughter in another town and I always stopped at the drugstore in that town. You mean I should be waiting to get into Arlington to buy what I need at the drugstore?" And I said, absolutely, yes. It's very important as residents that you support the businesses within our community, because that sales tax is coming to our budget, and instead of the other town that you might be driving through, and it might seem convenient, but it's not coming into your own pocketbook. So shop locally. If everyone did it a little more consciously, that could be a relief as well. Back to you. I didn't want to miss my opportunity. You gave me a lead in.
Mr. Keeney, if I were a business located in out of Illinois, and I had good years and bad years, and I was being recruited to relocate to Illinois, given the current state tax climate, where if I lost $500,000 one year, and the next year I made $500,000, and there's no carry forward of the net operating loss for, Bert could tell me if I'm right or wrong since I don't do a lot of tax work, but 3-4 years, could you ever entice me to relocate to Illinois, do you think? Given
You want me to answer that? Yeah, Arlington Heights is a great place to live.
As far as to
market
live,
as much as you could.
So,
You
but
passed
I'm
the test
talking
on.
as far as for a business, for tax purposes, that our legislature has created a very negative incentive. I'm not talking about to live, because the distance I drive, I could just as well be in Kenosha. But the incentive to locate it, when we talk about trying to locate businesses in Illinois, is our legislature created a very negative, down environment for any business to relocate to Illinois.
Depends on what state you're moving from. It's really difficult to answer without knowing all the...
Well, if you can't carry forward a loss with a 9% state income tax, don't hold me the exact percentage, that's pretty negative. But in spite of that, since I see what the will is up here, I'm willing to amend my motion to 1.2% and not have a prolonged discussion on this. We certainly have to cover our needs. The staff has indicated they could live with it, and if the second can do so, then we can move on.
I'll withdraw my second to the original motion and second the amended motion.
Okay, we have an amended motion for a tax levy of 1.2 as opposed to the original motion of 1.92. Is everyone clear on that, I believe? I think everyone's had their piece. Any other final comments from staff? So the motion is a 1.2% increase, which decreases that average from 20 to 12 per household. at that 300,000 value. That's approximate. Please don't hold us to that. We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call.
You don't.
No?
We're gonna
Voice
come
vote?
back with an
Oh, yeah, come back with an ordinance. Voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Very good. Thank you. And we move now to the last motion. I was hoping it was last. I wasn't going to call it. Made also by Trustee Breyer.
Well, I'll move this evening, as I did at the Committee of the Whole, to recommend that the 2014 budget ceiling be $67,650,000 for the general fund and $15,786,000 for the water and sewer fund.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Breyer, seconded by Trustee Hayes. Any comment on this motion, Trustee Farwell?
But because this is a related motion to last motion, I thought last motion we might have a roll call. I just wanted to piggyback on Mayor Mulder's comment of the last discussion and really highlight something, really throw it out there. Businesses are coming to Arlington Heights. We have H.H. Gregg, Ross for Less. Those opened up fairly recently, within the last 18 months. We've had smaller stores like the candy store, the Yogurt Land, the other yogurt store on Vale, hopefully the new, the cupcake store, the dollar store, the party store. These are all recent openings. And when I say recent, I don't mean last weeks, but I would say within the last 18 months. And so this is an indication that there is economic growth out there. And there is some turnover, but you're going to have that even in the finest of times. Hopefully a new theater will be coming soon. We have a new gas station coming in on the south side of town, the new AT&T store that opened up less than a year ago in the old Gap location on the north side of town, 2 auto dealerships, and then, so these, to me, it's indication that, yeah, times are tough, and this is an issue where we are sales tax dependent, but, thank goodness that we are a little bit sales tax dependent, because I know of a lot of municipalities that don't have any a major retail chains in their neighborhoods. They're truly bedroom communities, and they are solely reliable on real estate taxes. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have in that essence. So I would really drive home. We are at the threshold of our holiday shopping season, and I'd say get off the internet and go into the stores and go into the Arlington Heights stores, the Best Buys, the dealerships, the auto dealerships. Go out and shop locally. It really improves all of our bottom line. It's kind of like playing for the team. So I just really wanted to put it out there.
I had a senior citizen said, "Oh, you mean when I put $1 out to pay for something, I'm actually getting 3 cents back into my other pocket." So it is good. Do we need a roll call vote on this? This is a voice vote as well. We have a motion by Trustee Breyer, seconded by Trustee Hayes, for approval of the 2014 budget ceilings. Again, I repeat the amount, $67,650,000 in general fund, $15,786 million for the water and sewer fund. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We finished the report of our committee of the whole meeting 1 week ago. We now move to the consent agenda, and I look at the audience to ask, well, first the trustees, are there any trustee who wishes to vote no or pass on any items? For those of you in the audience, the items on page 4 are the ones included in this, the consent agenda. I see none. Are there any trustees who wish to remove an item for discussion? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes an item to be removed from page 4 for discussion? I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Glasgow, seconded by trustee Farwell.
Sidor.
Oh, Sidor. I knew it was down there. Roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. And for those of you who are here for the Pure Juice Cafe, the St. Dominic Daycare, and I wish you the best of luck and look forward to your opening. We now move to new business on page item 5, and I turn it over to Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is the sign variation request from Burger King at 675 East Rand Road. They are seeking 3 sign variations, or 3 categories of sign variations. The Design Commission considered this matter at its meeting of October 9 and voted unanimously to recommend the request with some conditions. Those conditions are stated on the agenda.
I have an apology. Mr. Frank Slowinski, are you happy with our discussion on the tax increase, or did you want to make your comments? I apologize.
Not happy.
If you would like to come forward. If you can keep your comments to 3 minutes, and again, my sincere apology. It was kind of lumped
My
together
name is
with
Frank
Rand Road.
Slowinski. I lived here for 39 years. I originally started looking around in Lake County. Made a mistake, should have went to Lake County. You're talking about, oh, do people want to go to Illinois? Do people want to go to Arlington Heights? If I sell my house, I'd be better off if I lived in Lake County and Lake Zurich, which is what I was looking for. The taxes on me last year went up 12%. That's ridiculous. You want a 1% increase, 2% increase? That's ridiculous. You want a bond for $40 million for the Park District? The voters say no. You put it up again. Why do you put it up again after the voters say no the first time? Now you want $40 million for the police department. They want 3% for District 214. It ought to go down, not up. Industry, everything, the economy is going down, not up. If you can't fund your pensions, you're doing something wrong. Review them. Everybody's getting bit by this. Everybody, Hostess, why can't they stay in business? They say, oh, Twinkies could survive a nuclear disaster. Yeah, but not a financial disaster. Decrease things, find a way. Thank you.
We're not the Park District, that's a separate government. So.
Everybody wants money, decrease it, not increase it.
Yeah, well, we did tonight a little bit, so.
No, that's still an increase. I want a decrease.
We stayed flat one year.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Now, Mr. Dixon, where you introduced the Burger King sign, are representatives from Burger King here, if they would like to come forward? If you could introduce yourself and your request.
George Persiliakos, architect for Prosy Design Incorporated, the architect of record for the Burger King remodeling. And as part of the corporate image upgrade, the franchise owner of this, the franchisee of this Burger King restaurant is looking to do an interior and exterior remodeling. The rendering you see above is the new finishes, new colors, new textures, and new signage that the existing Burger King would take over. Some of the mansards along Rand Road would be eliminated and replaced with canopies, new colors to reflect the new corporate image, and the signage that we're looking for is similar to what is existing, a button logo, a round logo along Rand Road, and another one on the mall side with a sign, Home of the Whopper, on the mall side as well. And those signs do exceed the ordinance requirement, but it's very close to what's there currently. So we were looking at trying to get to at least somewhat close to existing what we have. in the signage. The sign along the drive-through lane would be eliminated during staff review and recommendations from the design review that we did eliminate that. There's an existing sign on the drive-through, but that was one of the requests that the design review had for us.
Comments, Trustee Hayes?
Well, I think this is a reasonable request. I think the new signage is in keeping with Burger King's new corporate imaging, and there was some concern about whether or not this new signage would give Burger King a competitive advantage to other businesses in the area and in the village in general. But looking at the signage that's been presented to us and the diagrams, I don't see that it is out of keeping with what we've granted to other businesses, and I don't believe it gives Burger King a corporate advantage. And in these economic times, I think we need to do whatever we can to help businesses out in the community within reasonable limits, but I think this is a reasonable accommodation, and so I would move approval of the request.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Breyer for approval and concurrence with the Plan Commission recommendations. Trustee Rosenberg.
Did I hear you say that you were not going to have a sign on the drive-through side?
No, we eliminated that based on staff review and some comments from the design review. We did originally show a sign on the drive-through side. There's a canopy over the drive-through window. It's currently there, but they recommended that we eliminated that, and to keep things moving forward, we agreed to remove that sign. There's also some trees that are buffering between the next door property, which I think is the firs, Pavlis firs, that I think would obscure that sign, and it was decided that that one, if they were going to lose a sign, that one would be the one that would want be best to leave.
I know that originally you had significant footage requests, but you got it back down to below 100 square feet.
Yes.
So item C up above, isn't that the drive-through? Oh.
East wall.
So that's changed from what we have in our packets then?
On your transmittal dated November 19th to the President and members of the Board of Trustees, it outlines under request revised in the 3 variations. Sign variation number 1 is the number of signs on the walls. 3 wall signs where only 1 is allowed. They previously were asking for 4 wall signs. That 4th sign was the one that would be on the
drive-through
south portion of the building above the drive-through. Staff was not in favor of that, neither was the Design Commission, so the petitioner withdrew that request before coming to the Village Board.
Yeah, and the slide shows the existing, the other slide that you just moved.
So in item B, where we have west wall sign, so there's 2 signs in there now? Or
all they're asking for, Trustee Rosenberg, is the, as you can see on your screen, there's a circular Burger King sign facing Rand Road, which will be on the left facade there, facing Rand. Another Burger King sign above the entryway, which actually faces the entrance into the Town and Country Shopping Center, as well as the Burger King.
Okay.
And then below that, home of the Whopper, which is the 3rd wall sign. They're only allowed 1 because they only have 1 street frontage, Rand Road. They're asking for 3 signs.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Trustee Farwell?
Well, in the spirit of retired Trustee Dady, in looking at sign variances, I'm typically not in favor of them because it's one of those slippery slopes. You know, you begin to give variances for this, that, and the other. There are parameters set forth in providing variations. I think the public in the past has heard this board deny variations because those criterions hadn't been met. Here, in this case, I believe you've met the hardship issue with respect to corporate requirements for updating. You have the other criteria that is required to be met as far as It won't affect negatively the public safety, and it relieves the petitioner of certain detriments for business purposes. So in this particular case, I think, for me anyway, you've passed the litmus test. And then I looked at the actual sign that you're looking to put up itself, and I think it's great. I mean, I think I look at the Home of the Whopper part. I almost look at that as part of the building, and is that really a sign? You know, and then we get into the definition of a sign, and I'll save that for the Design Commission in another evening. That's not mine. So I think it's a great proposal, and I'd be in favor of it. Thank you.
You're removing the current Burger King that's on the roof.
Yes, the existing signage will be removed and replaced with all new signs.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second for concurrence with the Plan Commission recommendation. Any other comments from staff? Roll call, please.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Keep.
Do you want
One of
them?
them you can have.
They're not permit drawings,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll find the recycling. We now move to our second item, which is Countryside Church. If the petitioner would please come forward and introduce themselves. Mr. Dixon?
One of my adult sons attends this church, and as a result, I will not participate. Bill Enright, our Deputy Director of Planning, will represent the manager's office on this.
Mr. Enright, do you have any opening comments on this proposal?
Only to say that the plan staff supports the project with several conditions that the petitioners agreed to. The Plan Commission recommended the project to the Village Board as well, and we'd like to open it up to the petitioner at this point.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Nicholas Peppers, attorney for the petitioner, Storino, Romello, and Durkin, 9501 West Devon, Rosemont, Illinois. Good to see you all this evening. Also with me here tonight are representatives from the church as well as our consultants who have worked through this process. We are here tonight to seek preliminary and final PUD approval at the same time to allow two principal buildings on a single zoning lot, which will then allow the church to conduct its exterior renovations, interior renovations, and a variety of site improvements. But for the single-family home, which you'll notice on your site plan, Bill, if we can get a site plan up, that'd be great. The architectural site plan, thanks. We wouldn't even need to be here. These are really minor additions to the church that allow it to renovate a lot of the interior, and the result, if you can see on your drawings, would be a backstage area at the northeast corner of the building, which will allow the church to convert its current multi-purpose room to the main sanctuary. That's one addition. Thank you, Bill. And then the second addition is the entry lobbyway feature at the east portion of the building. That'll be enclosed, and that'll invite a greater access to the balance of the facility. The current sanctuary is at the southwest corner of the property. That'll be converted to an ancillary multi-purpose room. That's why we're here. To do those additions, because we have the single-family home to the north, which is also part of this property, we now have two buildings on one zoning lot. It triggered a PUD. Staff has been great to work with. They allowed us to put together a plan that accomplished preliminary and final. We will not be coming back to you again, hopefully, if we get your approval. We've worked hard to get all our engineering in order, and aside from the additions, everything else is staying the same. We will be having, just real briefly, I'll go through the site, a one-way drive access off of Elm. That'll continue, that'll go along the back of the church. That's being redesigned a little bit, but then it empties into the main parking lot, where the main parking lot, which exists now and serves the church, is primarily staying the same. We are going to be restriping and reconfiguring, and we are providing to the north land bank parking. Because of that and the numbers that we can produce, we don't need a parking variation. I've done over a dozen churches here, and how many times have I been here with parking variations? I don't have one tonight. I'm pretty pleased about that for a change. We have received unanimous Plan Commission recommendation. We've appeared before the Design Commission a couple times. In your packet are the architectural elevations. We've received unanimous recommendation from them. We did hold a neighborhood meeting on October 1, I believe it was. It was attended by the neighbors. We heard two comments from the neighbors. One, headlights from the cars in the parking lot shine to the homes to the east. We do have very mature landscape on that border, but we have gaps. And we did also hear that there was some concern over our parking lot flooding in the past. To address the parking lot, a couple months ago, the church did undertake to scope and clear out a clogged line. Since then, we have not had any flooding. One of the conditions you'll see is that we continue to maintain that maintenance process, but we feel like we've addressed that. Probably the bigger issue was the headlight glare to the east. The church immediately after that meeting revised their plans, and is now providing a 3-foot-high solid fence along the whole border to then mitigate that glare on top of the mature landscaping that it has. We were able to get that turned around in time for the Plan Commission. So we feel like we've addressed the neighbors' comments with respect to the project. Church has been there for over 40 years. It has almost 5 acres of land with a fairly large green area to the north between the house and the church. Really, we don't believe that the expansion that you're seeing here, which will allow the interior renovation, is dramatically impacting this site. I know you've read your packets. You're all very good at it. You've read the Plan Commission minutes, I'm sure. We do have our consultants here. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions from trustees? Trustee Hayes?
No questions, just a comment. As residents of this subdivision in which the church is located, Trustee Breyer and I both attended the neighborhood meeting that was conducted on October 1st. In fact, I live just north of the church and can actually see the church in the wintertime when there's no leaves on the trees. So we were concerned about, or interested, I should say, in terms of what the church was planning on doing. I think us, like the other residents who attended, were very satisfied with the presentation that was made, and we're very happy to hear of the accommodation that was agreed to by the petitioner to put that 3-foot-high fence along the east property line to prevent headlights from shining into those houses that live adjacent to the parking lot. So I think the petitioner has been very good about meeting those neighborhood concerns, and I think it's a good project, and always happy to see churches expand in Arlington Heights, so I would move approval.
Second.
Motion by the neighbors, or trustees tonight, too. Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Breyer. Trustee Rosenberg.
Bill, could you put this picture up, please?
Yeah, it'll take a second. If you can bear with me, I have to go to the staff presentation.
It's ACC,
It's
PUD?
off to the left. Oh,
Yeah, that's their presentation.
Oh.
Oh. There we go.
This is the site boundaries.
So on our maps, the
Yeah, it was
area
different.
in red doesn't have that part to the north?
Yeah, that's a good point. The line, actually, their land bank parking actually would extend into this area, which the church bought several years ago from this residential property owner. And that would include about 40 spaces that would be in this area, which would only be needed if their demand reaches that point. It's necessary to meet their code requirement. Whether or not they're going to actually need it in practicality, it remains to be seen, dependent upon their actual growth of their congregation over the next several years.
So at the current time, they won't be required to put that parking in, is what you're saying?
That's correct. It's land bank parking that would only be needed if their congregation grows as they're projecting over a number of years.
So even on the numbers that we're saying, showing on the parking survey, a summary on the table 2 on page 4 or 5, so we're saying that the 189 that's required, is that based upon future use or today's use?
That's based on their future projections. It includes 144 plus the 45 for land bank stalls.
But
I'm sorry, 46 land banked.
But we're saying 189 is actually required.
Would be required to accommodate their future needs, but not now or not in the near future.
Okay. So do we have statistics on what they would need today under the parking requirements?
Well, they have their parking consultant here who might be able to elaborate.
Trustee
more
Rosenberg, I
closely
think
on that.
in our packet for the Plan Commission, we did that analysis, and I think we have our traffic or our parking expert here, but I think it was in the 155 range. We did empirical studies. Not only did we go out and count during peak times, but we also did studies based on data, what we have now, and it was only like, I think 90 to 155. 90 to 155. So the numbers you're seeing in front of you are the very conservative maximum projections on what this project could generate if completely utilized, and then we of course will meet it with a land bank parking.
So on the Gawalt-Hamilton study, I think it was tables 2 and 3, talks about projected parking impacts and published parking demand comparison. Is that the numbers that your consultant is using?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Dan Brinkman to step up here. Before I step away, in case I don't get a chance, there are a variety of conditions attached to this. We agree to all of them, so there's no question on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Good evening. Dan Brinkman, Gawalt-Hamilton Associates. Probably the easiest way to clarify this, Trustee Rosenberg, the 189, that overall parking number that is met through the land bank assumes that each and every space in the church is occupied to its maximum potential simultaneously. Essentially, if you had the new space or the proposed renovated space being used as a service, while you had the existing chapel that's going to be multi-purpose space in the future also completely full with a service, as well as the office space and all of the supporting classroom spaces and stuff like that. Certainly they don't have that today. We did do current parking counts, and the projections assume that you'll fill up the proposed space, but as congregations tend to grow in size, what you tend to see is bigger families. So you don't necessarily have a greater parking demand when you have a larger attendance. Church also has several other options that are available to them. Right now they don't have. They have a good half an hour to 40 minutes between services. They only have 2 services on a Sunday. So in terms of before they needed to add to the parking lot, even if they were to, someday in the future fill this proposed additional space for their service, they could have a bigger stagger. They could offer more services before they, if their growth continues at a very slow pace that they've had over the last 8 to 10 years. You have many, many years before you would have, a parking problem if you went to multiple services and things like that. And again, it's that big number, that 189 spaces that's met through land bank, is really just that rigid application of the village's code that you have to consider all the space being used to its peak simultaneously. So I hope that answers your question.
So in the case where the holidays come, like Christmas and Easter and things like that, what is the expected? What do they typically use for numbers like that on those days?
We did our observations recently, and again, I think with the almost 140 spaces that'll be on site now, between a combination of additional services or more stagger, I really don't think you're going to see a parking problem out here with what they have. They haven't historically had problems. We never observed any parking on street, on Elm, or on Hints for that matter. So again, right now, of all the church, I want to say maybe I've done parking studies on half the churches that Nick's done zoning for in town. And again, we're very happy to come forward and not be asking for the variation here. But I really think, that it's covered based on what they've done over the last, decade or so and the slow but steady growth that they've seen in the congregation.
So right now they maybe would use 90 spaces or something like that?
Real quick, I can get you the number that we counted. Their peak occupancy that we counted this year, this June on Sunday, was 94 spaces. Out of the 155 that's there today, it's only about 60%. And again, there'll be about 145 spaces with the renovations and the restriping on the current lot without expanding it. So
even with the demand for those holiday services, you feel there?
I think by staggering them and offering additional services, I don't see any problem with the parking out here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from trustees? We have a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience wish to address this? See none, roll call.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Breyer.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee Farwell.
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
President Mulder.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pepper.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm electronic.
You just want to read our notes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine are all electronic, so.
How are you, Nick?
We now move to item C, Rand Road Medical Office Building. Mr. Dixon?
This is a request for rezoning from R1 to B1. The Plan Commission considered this matter on October 24 and unanimously recommended approval with conditions. The petition also requests an amendment to ordinance number 79-067 to eliminate condition number 1, which at that time restricted the use of the basement to storage and mechanical purposes only. So this matter comes to the board with unanimous recommendation for approval with conditions as stated on the agenda and is ready for board consideration.
Comments or questions? The petitioner want to come forward and identify themselves? You were here early tonight.
I was. Thank you. I actually thought we started at 7, so I was a little bit early. For the record, Jessica Schramm here on behalf of the petitioner from Thompson Coburn. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. I'm joined by John Brust, who is the owner of the proposed facility, as well as the architect Joe Meyer is here, as well as the landscape architect Brian Mayer. Present to answer any questions or concerns you may have. In short and in sum, the proposed facility is seeking an expansion of 32,000 square feet. At present, the office building is currently occupied at a 94% capacity. It has the end users you're very familiar with, that is Women's Care, LabCorp, Sanders Pediatric, as well as the various office facilities that support Northwest Community Hospital. End users, while not finalized to date, we contemplate would be an imaging center, an orthopedics, as well as a same-day care that would operate during normal business hours. So that is the proposed expansion in a nutshell, and if we can answer any questions or concerns you may have relative to it, we're happy to do so. We have been before the Plan Commission and arrived with unanimous approval, as I understand it, as well as the Design Appearance Commission has seen the project and has approved it. We have worked extensively with staff, and that's outlined in the memo, relative to the landscaping, the screening, and the lighting issues. So with that, we stand ready to address any concerns you may have.
As you heard from the petitioner, it does come to us with a strong support from the Plan Commission. I would start with Trustee Blackwood.
Really quickly, the current building that's there, is that made out of precast construction?
I would have to defer that question to my architect. Or the owner.
It's precast panels, cement.
The current building?
The current building, correct.
Could you give your name?
John Brust, owner of, one of the owners of 1051 Rand Road Medical Building.
Okay, so that's currently the current building.
Correct.
I was just wondering why you had decided to go with precast construction based on some of the discussions and the buildings that we've had in the past, recently?
Well, we went through two commission meetings on the design and changed the layouts and the colors of the building. And currently the building is white. We're planning on the remodeling of this process to repaint the structure to coordinate with the new building. So that was approved by the Design Commission.
I was reading the Design Commission minutes, and I just came across that, and I saw that that was something I haven't seen in a long time. You had mentioned, I'm sorry, Miss Jessica, or Miss Schramm, you had said that there's already individuals that are ready to lease the new spaces.
I believe we've identified needs, and some of those needs were contemplated. And John, if you would elaborate.
We have had Northwest Community Hospital is a major tenant inside the building. One of the reasons that they needed to relocate out of the building, their imaging center, is that the technology and machinery and equipment could no longer fit in the lower level of our building. And immediate care, their needs have gotten bigger, so we could not accommodate that parking-wise or square footage-wise. So we're in negotiations now to have them come back into the area because they look at the building here as being a northern campus for the hospital in Arlington Heights.
So the hospital is really who you're dealing with in this case then, as opposed to the doctors who previously owned that building?
Northwest Community Hospital is probably right now 60% of the leasing tenant of the building, and they're looking to expand. We're full, and we're busting out at the seams, and we're at this point in time we've been working on this project for a couple of years to get this to move forward. So the biggest thing is you can't negotiate a lease unless you have the zoning approval to put this property in use and then get the banking behind it so that we're set up to go. We're waiting right now to just finish the approval process so that we can move forward. And one of the big things is that it's attractive for an 8,000 to 10,000 square foot tenant for orthopedics is to have an imaging center inside that facility. So we're staged, and we know that we have needs and people that can come and join us, but we're kind of at an impasse right now until we get the rezoning.
Thank you.
Other questions, Trustee Glasgow?
In viewing the property and looking at the current setup there, you do have a capacity in there. I didn't see any empty offices in the building that you're currently in. Just to follow up on Trustee Blackwood's question, when we end up, putting something right there, you're going to affect the neighbors, and that's one of the things that you guys went through Design Commission and such. What you're going to be putting there is mainly working between, like roughly 7 to 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. doctor's offices? We
go usually from 6 to 8 p.m., and then when the people filter out, it's usually 8:30, 9 o'clock. Immediate care, if it were to come back to the facility, the hospital has a policy at Northwest that they would not have an off-site facility be 24 hours. So basically, anybody that would come after 8 o'clock would then be sent to Northwest Community Hospital to the emergency room. So our immediate care is for people that need an immediate appointment that don't want to go to an emergency room, that can come to the facility, receive care, and then leave.
And the people that you have lined up for there are fairly solid leads that are going to be moving in there if we were to approve the project?
Yes.
All right. The back row along that southwest or southeast corner, I apologize, where it comes to a point there, that's where the striping or the parking spaces are going to be that are not striped?
Correct.
And you've agreed to put up all the various rows of foliage back there to help block out the roughly 6 homes that would be affected?
Yes.
All right. You don't see a whole lot of high traffic in that back area. The parking, as I see it, seems to be enough for everybody involved in all the office and capacity. Isn't that correct?
Yes. It's the biggest thing right now is, if you look at the size of the lot, it's mainly the snow removal. Mm-hmm. What we have to do is basically have a perfect lot. If you come anytime during the winter months, our lot's spotless because it's got to have no snow on it. Somebody falls, a doctor, we're in an immediate lawsuit. So we start snow plowing, salting 3 to 4 times a day to make sure that the lot is like as perfect as we can be. A few days in a blizzard, we're struggling, but for the most part, we have to have a place to move snow. On the current property now that I usually have bobcats come and take and move the snow out of the lot because there's no room to pile the snow.
All right. Currently with Woman Care, I believe you guys have some kind of imaging center or some kind of center down in the basement that I saw.
The imaging center has moved out. That's now in, we went in for permit. We're almost completed in the rebuilding of that spot. That's for research and development for medical technology and also psychology.
And there'll probably be an in-house lab in the new area?
There is currently LabCorp and also Northwest Community Hospital that was permitted in the last 3 months here, and they're in the lower level.
Mayor Mulder, I believe, based on what I've heard in the minutes that I've seen, I believe this is the best use for the property in order to grant the petitioner's request. I respectfully move approval of this particular matter.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Glasgow, seconded by trustee Farwell. Comments, trustee Farwell?
Yeah, just a couple of questions or comments here. With respect to 1108 and 1104 and 1109 ALEC, just want to make sure that we're pretty clear and that the petitioner understands. It appears as though 1109 is getting his fence replaced, but 1108 and 1104 at this time do not want their fence replaced, but wanted to maintain the foliage, which is a separate requirement as a condition. I'm just looking to staff for clarification on that so the petitioner understands it.
Yeah, the petitioner's been working with the homeowners. We're aware of what they've asked for. Petitioner will be building a 6-foot fence along the whole entire south property line. They're also doing extensive landscaping with a double row of hedging towards the southeasterly portion adjacent to those 3 homes that you mentioned on ALEC. When the petitioner does come in and gets to the point where they're going to be installing the fence, they will find out from the property owners what they want them to do at that point in time. But they are putting up the fence across the full perimeter, or full length of the south property line. Whether or not property owners adjacent want their fence removed, the petitioner will do that for them at the time they build the fence. But right now, you're right, one wants it, 2 don't.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then also a couple other things. As far as the lighting in the parking lot, I'm assuming that they're going to have the light dampers so that you don't have any overflow of the light pollution going onto contiguous properties?
Yes.
Okay. And are they on timers, do you know?
Yes.
Okay. And well, not lastly, 2 more things. I walked the vacant part of that land. There's quite a topographical difference on the south portion of that land. How is that going to be handled, correctly as far as water detention and actually transgressing from like the back part of that land all the way into your lobby?
Yes, it will. The main thing is we're adding another retention pond in the front.
Okay.
There's going to be a 4 to 5.5 foot cut to remove soil so that the grading will take all the water to Rand Road. So that's going to even make that parking lot lower. So if you're going to put a parking lot up high, it would appear really high to the neighbors, but because of the topographical change and the lower parking lot in the existing building, we need to cut the grade and take the water and everything towards Rand Road. Okay. That's one of the major expenses, and that's one of the reasons why we have to regrade the lot.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little bit worried about how you were going to handle that. I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't want it to inadvertently kind of flow south, into the residence or west over to Barnaby's. So I was just kind of looking at the whole thing. And then, let's see. Also, are there snow plowing ordinances as far as the timing that they can snow plow as needed? Okay. All right. Yeah, that's great. I think this is a fantastic use of the land. I appreciate you working with the residents and the administration, and I'm glad to see Northwest Community growing. And appears like it'll be creating more jobs as well up there.
Thank you.
Trustee Sidor?
Thank you, Mayor Mulder. Bill, on one of the conditions here, this number 10 intrigues me. Trustee Glasgow touched on it. The 7 parking stalls at the southeast corner, which are paved but not striped. I understand the concept behind that and that, available for future use, but I'll use one of my favorite words. Can the petitioner plop anything they want down on there, as storage, or is it restricted as to what they can place back there on that area where the 7 parking stalls are paved but not striped?
No, this came out of the Plan Commission over concerns about whether or not they would need those 7 stalls facing the property, the backyard of the property on Alec. So the petitioner agreed to not stripe them so as to not encourage people to park there unless absolutely needed. They wanted to get it done now because they're going out there and paving, assuming they approve this, and they didn't want to just land bank and then have to come back later and disrupt some of the landscaping that they're putting in. Get it done now, get the landscaping in, and not mess with it later because it could kill some of the landscaping back there. They also, I think, will need it for some storage of snow if we get some heavy snowfall, because that's always an issue with any parking area throughout town. Whether or not people will not park there or not, it's very difficult for the village to enforce, if not impossible. So I don't know if there's no signage projected there to say do not park there. I think it's going to be mostly for employees. I don't think many customers are going to end up parking that far. It'll be more for their employees, so they'll have to instruct them towards that end.
So people can park there if I have a really nice car, and I want it away from everybody, I could go there whether it's striped or not, and just park there if I'm visiting the building.
Practically speaking, you're correct.
Okay. That's the only thing that bugs me about this particular condition, is that I think if it's paved but not striped to deter people from parking, but they can park there anyway, and people find uses for paved areas, and I think that's also a concern of some of the residents, and I'm not sure if we can do something about that moving forward, but that's my one concern, Mayor. So thank you.
Trustee Blackwood?
I just have one question, Mr. Brest, and this is more of a business question than a land use question, but when Northwest Community Hospital opened the immediate care facility in Mount Prospect and closed the immediate care facility here, why are you reopening it, or why are they?
Well,
are they, or are you?
We were limited in space in the building, and there's so many full-time doctors that are there with care and needs that they sacrificed the immediate care because they had too many day-to-day appointments for people that they just could not take people that didn't have an appointment to come in. Northwest Community Hospital, the group they started out as Greater Northwest Medical Building group when we opened the building in 2001, and then they changed to the medical group, and how medicine has changed. They are probably the largest groups of doctors that have been brought into Northwest Community Hospital. So they are under contract now to the hospital. So there's not enough space in the building for the vision that they have to grow for health care, especially in the day that we have now for the doctors. I mean, right now they're telling me right now we need more space. It's like, guys, there's no more space. We're full. So they're pushing to expand, and the hospital is on board. The doctors that were original owners are on the board now with Northwest Community Hospital. So the business manager is now a business manager that was with Affinity, is now a business manager for Northwest, and they're developing practices all over in the area and expanding. So they have a great concept and a great idea, and the hospital's picked up on it and moving forward.
Thank you.
Anyone else have some questions? Trustee Rosenberg?
Bill, the detention is that spot on the bottom. There's a new one on where your arrow just was a second ago, right there, and then below the property line, to my left a little bit, toward the bottom,
up
where it says existing, right there. Is that their detention, or is that the other property?
No, that's part of the detention that services the whole Greenwood Place development that was done about 15, 18 years ago, where the townhouses were built up here, and then the homes on Alec and I forget the other street were built. So that's one of the detention areas. So it's not related to this project.
So the other detention area, other than the upper right, is where else?
Just south of the new proposed building in this open space area here. It's a smaller detention area. This is the larger one up here, but it'll be located down here with several trees located around the perimeter, pear trees that'll be about 12 to 14 feet initially and will grow to about 20 feet within 5 years and possibly up to about 30 feet
And that's
thereafter.
all underground detention?
Well, it's depressed.
Oh.
It's not underground. It's visible. It's grass areas.
And the one in front is same way?
Right, but it's both detention areas are landscaped quite nicely around the perimeters.
Okay. And just a question, there was, I think in the residents' letters, they had talked about 9-foot evergreens, and in our proposal, it's talked about 6 foot. Is that, so are they 6 or are they 9?
The petitioners agreed to increase them to 9 feet along the south property line here, adjacent to the 3 residential homes, so those will be 9 feet.
Okay. That was all I had. Thank you.
Any other questions? I know we have some residents that wish to make comments in regards to this, so I think it'd be appropriate to hear their concerns, and probably need you to respond to some of them.
Okay, thank you.
I'd first like to call David Stutzman. If you could give your name and address, please, David, and sort of watch for the 3-minute little.
Good evening. I'm Dave Stutzman. My address is 1104 West Alec Street. I'm one of the owners who's directly affected by this proposed project. I'll try to keep it concise, but there's about 4 or 5 key points that myself as a homeowner and one of the properties that directly impacted by this project, obviously I'm opposed to the project for 4 or 5 different reasons. First of all, I guess just the green land space in itself, the fact that, first of all, we were one of the original homeowners in the Greenwood Place, so we've been there since the inception of the development of this property, which has been about 14 to 15 years. We continue to maintain and to want to maintain and to appreciate our value of our property. So obviously, we're very concerned from a value property standpoint that by putting this project in will have a negative impact on the value of our property. Behind our property, we've had the opportunity to have a nice wooded lot buffered between what the current existing property is and the wooded area that exists there today. And the major concern is by removal of all of the buffer area and by putting in asphalt, that's going to bump up pretty much closely to our property lines, obviously is one of a concern not only from a value perspective but also from a security perspective as well. And we just feel like that's going to be a much of a negative impact. I think it's been kind of touched on a couple times, and I know we've had ongoing discussions. About a quarter mile down the road, there was a large facility put in place on Rand Road with a medical health facility type complex, of which today continues to be, for the most part, unoccupied. And we still have the same level of concern, the fact that we're going to be putting in a 2-story building right in the same property in an industry that really is not expanding but is more contracting. So I think there's a question mark that whether or not you're really going to truly be building and constructing a 2-story site facility and you're going to have full occupancy. So our concern as residents of Greenwood Place is the fact is you're going to be building a 2-story building, of which today will probably could be more realistically be unoccupied. And to that point, I'd say that the type of construction that's going to be put up in the 2-story building is something of which is really not very aesthetic. It's not a very good-looking building. It's something you would expect to find probably more of an industrial park as something that's going to be close to a residential property. So here again, I think we're concerned about the aesthetics of what you're going to actually be constructing, and by the fact that you're going to be taking down a very nice wooded area lot and replacing it with directionally over 300 stalls of parking space. So in summary, again, as most of my other neighbors are obviously very concerned about this project, we're certainly not in favor of it. And I think as a resident of Arlington Heights for over 25 years and of Greenwood Place for about 15 years, we certainly would not like to see this project going forward.
Thank you, David. We're just circling your house here. Jerry Teets?
Thanks. Jerry Teets, 1109 West Alex Street, 20-year Arlington Heights resident. We're opposed to this project for a lot of the reasons my neighbor Dave Stutzman just stated, as well as the multiple emails and correspondence that we've had with the village, the planners, and emails that we've sent to you. I'd like to go back to the public hearing which we came for several weeks ago, and just like tonight, the church went before us, and Matt Dabrowski, the Arlington Heights Village planner, was doing his presentation on the church, and he said what he liked about the project is it didn't change the character of the neighborhood. Well, the 1051 Rand Road medical project will change the character of 3 residential neighborhoods. So I think what you've got to decide is if you want to change the character of that many neighborhoods, just as Matt, liked the church project because it didn't change it, we feel this will drastically change our neighborhood as well as 2 others around it. If you do decide to give this a go, we'd still like your help in giving us an additional buffer between our homes and this 2-story commercial building project. Before the public hearing, Matt, the village planner, had forwarded us an email in which the developer had stated that they are going to be removing the 7 spaces, which we talked about already tonight, directly facing the 1109 Alex Street property. I had forwarded that email to all of the village trustees on Friday. Somehow, even after that email, when we thought we were done with the 7 spaces, it ended up at the public hearing that those would be paved and not striped. We're not for that. We don't, as Trustee Sidor diligently pointed out, that's an area to park utility maintenance vehicles, pile snow, and we'd like your help in giving, the residents an extra 60 feet of green space, and we think additional trees should be planted there also. So we still don't understand why we would get that email and then a different thing takes place at the public hearing. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jerry. Chuck? Stewart's?
Yes. I'm Chuck Sturts. Diana and I have lived at 1014 Allegheny for 44 years, since 1968. And 1014 Allegheny is in the southeast corner of that diagram there. Well, I don't think it's that building, but if you'd look right at the very edge there, that that's probably it. This development is obviously between us and Rand Road. During the early days, that area was an open field, and Rand Road was a two-lane rural highway. As the years passed, the field became overgrown with brush and trees that absorb and deflect much of the noise emanating from what is now a busy 5-lane business commuter route. Our view is that the development is welcomed. However, it involves removing 86% of the existing sound absorption material, meaning trees and brush. By the way, does that removal include the half-dead willow tree at the lot line in the southeast corner of the development, the lot line with my property? If not, will you remove it? Pardon? I'm asking. As stated earlier, the current stand of trees and brush are rather thick and provide a significant sound barrier. My request is that the Black Hills spruce trees larger than 6 feet tall be planted in the green space barrier along your south and southeast property line to lessen the near-term sound impact on your neighbors. I also understand there's an area of the finished parking lot nearest my property that will remain unstriped. I request that the area be developed as green space to avoid it becoming a collection site for debris and the accumulation of parking lot snow. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Are you located right there at that, like, point?
Yes.
So it backs up?
Right there.
It touches 2 lots. So you're right in there. Okay.
That's right where that cursor is now is where I am.
Is that the same place, if I get my map, where the 7 additional spaces were added?
Yes, that's the spot. My understanding is that's the spot.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck. William Bailey.
Good evening. William Bailey, 1108 West Alex Street. I am the house that is directly across from what's going to be the new elevation of a 2-story building. So if you can look at the plan, you can see where I am. Is it possible to turn it over to the exterior elevations? Keep going. So the rear elevation, which is the one at the bottom, it's 30 feet tall. It's much closer to the residential areas than I would recommend if I was looking at this project. It's like a magnifying glass to the residents because it's larger and closer to the residents. I will now be looking at a wall. Currently, the way the site is, the existing building is lower. It does make a sense, and I would recommend that maybe going back to the drawing board and looking for better land management and land planning on this for building size and building impact to its neighbors. I agree with a lot of my other neighbors about the parking issues. I don't disagree with the use. I do question whether it's now Northwest Community Hospital has a lot of layoffs going on. They have not been expanded, and I would highly suggest fact-checking with the hospital to find out what their master plan is. They have just completed their 5, 10, and 15, and 20-year master plan. And I think to go off a he said, she said right now would be scary for a development like this. So I ask you to take a little more time, do some fact-checking, and then revisit this project. And I will end early. You've got a minute more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Were there any other members of the audience that wish to address this issue? Now would be the time. Seeing none, we'll go back to staff. Any other comments relative to the concerns that were brought up by the 4 residents?
Well, I apologize. I take the gentleman at his word about an email. I haven't seen that or heard about it from Matt, so I apologize if we didn't have that information tonight. So I would like to know from the petitioner what that email said. Again, this 7-space striping removal was something that came up at the Plan Commission. I personally don't think that that really accomplishes much one way or the other. So I think we need to take that into consideration. They're over code on parking by 16, so I'm not sure how important these 7 spaces are. For the petitioner, they would have to attest to that. So those are just a couple of things that I wanted to comment on.
The petitioner could come back up and respond. What are the plans for those extra 7 parking spaces? Could that be the extra buffer that some of the residents are asking for? And let's put in another 25 trees and make it really thick and so you can't see anything, and tall.
Yes, my name is Dan Greco, 5246 Meyer Drive, Lisle, Illinois, and I am the civil engineer for the plan, for the site plan. And I'd like to attest from the owner's perspective that they're looking for as much parking on site as possible. I know that there was a certain feeling or custom to the vacant property that was there before. The owner is only obligated for a 5-foot buffer for parking. We've since, just about every meeting, we've given a concession. Originally, we were about 20% over parking, and that number's now dwindled down to 5% over parking. And now we're looking at these 7 spaces again, about removing them completely as well too. What we had attested to at the parking or the planning commission meeting was for these 7 parking spaces here is that if we just had an area to park snow, or if we had to utilize those spaces in the future, that we wouldn't have to come back and ask for another variance to the site. Trying to think of anything else.
I would just add to that in terms of we were talking about the changes that were made, and as referenced, there was a 5-foot requirement. We did eliminate 13 parking spaces to increase that to 21.5 feet in width. So that buffer has been continually increased. I believe at the point in time we are now is we feel the facility is appropriately parked to not only meet our demands but meet code. We are approximately 16 spaces over code. That's about a 5%. And going any lower that, we really do fear that we won't be able to meet our demands. That is the demands of the patrons coming to the site.
And to add to that, before there was another 14 spaces that were removed. So, originally we had that parking coming all the way down, and we removed 14 here and then another 13 here. So a total of 27 spaces eliminated. Plus you have the islands that we added as well to the area. The other point I'd like to make is again, a 5-foot buffer is all that's required. We have at least 4 or 5 different areas of buffering now incorporated into the separation between the residential and the site plan, and that includes over 23 feet of space instead of just 5 feet. We have not 1 row but a double row of blue spruces. We also have an elevation grade change that the owner attested to earlier. We'll be making a 4 to 5 foot cut. During very heavy rains, the parking lot will also act as detention as well, mindful of not being any higher than a foot during the heaviest of rains. I'd also ask at this time that in terms of the 9 foot, I know on the plans we had indicated earlier that we have 6 foot on the plan. In previous correspondence, we asked if we can go to 9 foot in terms of the total height. I would like to request, and actually in speaking with the landscape architect, he suggested a mix in height between 6 and 9 foot, that we say a certain percentage be split between 6, 7, 8, and 9 feet in height, and that way you get a kind of a breakup or a variance in height. Just because of the cost that's involved. It's double in price to go from a 6 foot blue spruce to a 9 foot blue spruce.
You are next to someone's backyard.
Correct.
Totally residential, and you heard the years that they've been residents there.
Correct.
And hopefully you can appreciate their concern of what they have to see, what they have to look at, and the potential of all this wooded area now being open for sounds coming from Rand Road. We call it good neighbor. You know, if you could be a better neighbor, maybe you'd be a little more accepted. Anything more you can offer?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind going back to the elevation of the actual, where it shows the profile. There we go. You know, there's some talk about the height, elevation, and grade difference. Actually, the one before that one, where it shows the car. There you go. That you can actually see there's, you know, the parking lot's going to be lower than the property here. So we're going to have curb, we're going to have grading, we're going to have the tree, we're going to have the fence. We're going to have all those elements combined that will be helping to absorb sound, plus all the other landscaping that's on the property. We're removing, you know, 84% of the existing foliage, but then at the same time, we're planting in excess of, you know, 100 trees on site as well, too. So I understand those trees won't be fully mature at the time that we put this in, but there will be significant landscaping as much as possible done to the property.
Just to add, there is no height restriction, and if you were to look at the house in the middle of the drawing there, that house is probably higher, its roof peak is higher than the building that we're building because our grade is so depressed. So that type of foundation right now, and that lot is almost about 9.5 feet up from our lower level when you're going in. So it's not like we're building this building that's massive. So it's like, with the landscaping and trees that we've put in, you know, we've listened to all the concerns here and we've exceeded the code. And right now we're just looking to try to move forward.
I'm going back to the site plan just one last time. I know the original concern that was brought up at the Plan Commission was the fact that these parking spaces are facing the residential properties. If it would be help to be a good neighbor, something that we could do in keeping the paved area that's there, again, looking for snow purposes, looking for the rare opportunity where they may need to park a vehicle there because of peak overflow. We could stripe 2 or 3 parking spaces this way, or we could totally stripe. We have this hatch pattern right here. We could totally bring that hatch pattern all the way across to indicate no parking. The thing we like to do is we like to maintain this area too, because this is an element for fire vehicles to be able to make their wider turns. They would be able to make that turn if this area was paved over, but again, this would assist in any type of activity that they would have.
Trustee Rosenberg.
If the petitioner would be willing to, I would like to see that, as you're suggested, either hatch that across so no one would park there, or put no parking signs there, so at least you would have the space, but no one would park there unless there's a immediate need, maybe at some point in time, but initially not to park there.
We'd be agreeable to that. The main thing is for the snow. And if you look at that corner and look at the two buildings that are connected, that is the farthest place to park.
Right.
I don't know if I go to Woodfield, I want to park that far away and walk in. And basically, if I'm going for healthcare, it's going to be the same way. I'm going to look for the closest spot possible. It's just a necessity. We've been in this building for over 12 years now. And, you know, we service the building, we maintain the property, and we do our very best to keep it clean. We sprinkle the property, maintenance, and we do the best to make it look the way we want to look, and we want to maintain that image now in what we built.
Well, the existing building, though, is nowhere near any of these backyards. Have you ever considered any of the berming along that perimeter so that the plant material would then be above a berm?
Mayor, there is already a berming. If you take our parking lot, you have to walk up 6 feet to get to the top of the grade. So we're already 6 feet lower going down to our lot. So if you were to look at that, there's already a big depression. So from here down to this grade is our parking lot, from my height to the parking lot. So, and then the lots where the homeowners live are probably another 4 or 5 feet higher to their top of foundation. So their houses are extremely higher than where our parking lot is now.
You're lucky you're not going to be flooding them then. So it's good.
No.
That. When we
Trustee
had
Blackwood?
Just one more thing.
One more thing, yes.
As far as the height of the foliage, I mean, I don't know that I'd be willing to go with the 6 or 7 feet, but maybe 8 and 9 foot, you know, just to make sure it's filled in and grows the same, you know, in the area to cover that, to block the houses in the rear. But, you know, because I'd like to see that grow as fast as, you know, have the coverage that it needs for the back area. So, you know, as long as it worked out okay, I think would like to see that filled in as soon as possible as the residents.
Could we agree to maybe a 50-50 split between 8 and 9 foot then?
Let's go for 10.
There you go.
I'll let you work that out with the planning department, so.
Okay, is that good? Trustee Blackwood, then Trustee Farwell?
Mayor, on the day that we had the 100-year flood, July of 2010, I believe it was, I had an appointment, 11, I'm sorry, at the building. And I was amazed at how everything was underwater. And it was my time to go there. It was probably about 10:15, and I went by again at almost 1 o'clock, and it was still underwater. Now, some of the water retention, or most of the water retention, is mostly towards the front, Mr. Enright, is that correct?
Well, there's 2 locations. One is at the front along Rand Road, and there's another detention area that they're proposing behind the building addition to the south of it.
Which is right where it was flooded, yeah, for the longest period of time. But that's all, is that all vegetation back there?
Yes, that will be, but one of the reasons why there's a backup on water is that the county has a restrictor in the manhole that regulates the flow of water from our parking lot into the main sewage system. So basically, in a heavy flood condition, the water is restricted in such a way that only so much can enter that system to not overflow something else down the road. So unfortunately, it's one of those rare cases where I don't want to be there either because I'm there and I'm getting calls from the doctors. It's like, what do we do? I can't do anything. It's an act of God. It's one of those things that just happens, unfortunately.
I was just wondering if it was going to overflow into the new parking area, especially when you're going to remove all of the trees and put in asphalt there.
Could I comment to that? I did the grading plan. Would you mind going to the topographic map?
If we get it on here.
Do you have a topographic map?
I'm not sure if we have it.
Maybe you don't have one. Yeah, there we go.
There.
So what we've done is we're trying to match the existing grade of the existing facility, and able to do that, we need to cut in this area here significantly. The way this will work is the overflow will be the main entrance right here. So all the water, these are inlets that are right here, But in case of a heavy rainfall event, everything is designed to outflow to Rand Road. Detention bays in here, detention bays in here, and a minor detention base in here.
So you are planning to put in some kind of flood control, if you will?
Yes.
But a drainage system underneath any kind of pavement that you're going to be putting there for the parking lot?
Well, the only thing we'll have is the pipes themselves, but the pavement itself will hold up to half a foot to a foot of water in some areas. And when it reaches a certain point, it'll just go by gravity then. This driveway will act like a weir, and the water will flow towards Rand Road. So you shouldn't not see, you know, according to your ordinance, you shouldn't have any more than a foot of water in your parking lot, and that's the way it's designed.
Trustee Blackwood, do you have any other questions? No. Okay, Trustee Farwell.
Had a question about the willow tree. It's tree number L, and it says, I want to find out whose property is that on, because it's like right on the border.
I don't think it's on ours.
I don't think it's on.
We don't think it's on our property.
We don't think it's on our property, and I did the survey too, so.
Because it's sitting outside, at least based on the submission that we have here, it appears that it's outside your land, but I'm not a land surveyor, so you know.
And we would commit not to remove that tree. I mean, it's probably 50 or 60 feet tall.
Well, yeah, you've already committed not to remove it because it doesn't show as, it's showing as you're retaining it. So then you also beg the question, why would you say that you're retaining something that you don't own? Because it says willow, poor health, serious hazard, 40-inch in diameter.
I can answer that question. I did the original survey. There's a grove of trees here that line the property, including maples and other species, but mostly maples. There was a survey that was done subsequent to me, not by a land surveyor, but by an arborist.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have been able to exactly tell where the property lines were one way or the other. It's kind of thick out there, so to speak. So he may have included that willow in his survey as a result, but I did not include it in my original survey.
Well, I found it interesting because, you know, the gentleman that brought it up, and then I thought I would look it up to try to find it, because in walking back there I saw this huge dead tree. And I'm assuming that's got to be the one that we're talking about because it's the only one real large one out there. But it is clearly outside. You know, when you look at these little circles, I don't know whether do we have that plan up there? No, it's not up there. I'm looking at L-1 on our packet. I don't know whether we've got it on the PowerPoint. But it indicates that the tree is clearly outside the property line. So, you know, usually you take a look at the property owner of the tree to determine whose responsibility it is for removal. But if it's not yours, then I don't know that we have the power to ask you to remove a tree that's not yours. So, all right, no more questions. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else down on this end? Trustee Breyer.
Bill and Wright, if that's okay. The master plan that originally was done, what did it call for on this property? The master zoning plan.
Well, it depends what year, but it goes back, this property goes back at least to 1988 comprehensive plan for at a minimum offices. I believe at one point this site actually may have been designated for commercial at one point over 20 years ago, and it was changed to offices, which is less intense, which is in keeping with this development. But it's been, you know, designated for commercial type use, which an office building is for years.
Would it be fair to say then that the size of the parking lot and configurations are something to be expected based upon the master plan?
Well, the master plan isn't so specific as to lay out site plans that would be built there. They just guide as a policy decisions in the future regarding zoning of property, and that's what's happening here, where we have an offices only designation for the property, and that's what they're building, a new office addition with the related parking. The actual layout is really dependent upon what the property owner provides to the village and is seeking as part of a rezoning effort.
But as far as land coverage and size of building, they have no problem with floor area ratios and the like, so that this is certainly in keeping with whatever it was would have been thought of in the master plan.
Absolutely. They're well under the floor area ratio. The floor area ratio allows 1.5 square feet of building floor area per square foot of land, and they are, I think, about 0.35 FAR. So they're well under the FAR requirement or allowance. They're also meeting all setbacks for the buildings. The south property line, they're required to have 20 feet. They have 58 feet with the new addition. And they meet the other requirements on the other property lines for setbacks. There is no building height requirement or maximum in the B1 district, but they're proposing 29 feet, which is a two-story building, obviously. So they meet every code requirement.
To comment on something that was said earlier, if my memory is correct, when the hospital was here, its executive director, or president, whatever he calls himself, had said that their model was to decentralize and have physicians and other facilities off campus, and that was their new thinking. So for those who question the economic viability of this model, not that I speak for them in any way, I don't, but that is my memory, that this is in keeping with what they had said at the time, just to add that so that there's no doubt that they could have a viable tenant. On Saturdays, do you foresee going till late in the evening, or do you think this thing will close up earlier?
Saturdays, we usually close between 2 and 3 o'clock.
How about Sunday?
Sunday, there's no operation unless some doctor comes in for an emergency to see a patient.
So on the weekends, there'd be a significantly less presence than if there had been, say, a store there.
Yes.
Right. I have no other questions or comments.
And Trustee Glasgow.
Bill, to follow up on what Trustee Breyer had indicated, you wouldn't characterize this as overbuilt in any way?
No.
Okay. Jessica, I have a few questions for you. This particular piece of property, for those who aren't familiar with it, abuts Rand Road, which is a heavily traveled road, correct?
That's right.
And on both sides, you've got commercial properties, you've got Barnaby's to the east, and you've got the current medical facility to the west?
That's right.
How many meetings have you been to in the village?
Have I personally attended, or have we hosted?
Have you guys done with the village, I mean, with planning, et cetera, to go through your proposed design and the proposed parking and everything else?
John, you'd actually be in a better position to answer that.
Probably a dozen, maybe more.
And of how many of those have residents been present to discuss what you guys were putting forth here today?
The only time they've been present, I believe, maybe once with Matt, but I've met with them on several occasions with landscape architects, addressing their concerns for the last year and a half to evolve the project to try to satisfy their needs and concerns. And that's why we're at this point with additional buffering and the situation where we're at, giving them trees to make it as suitable as possible.
How many concessions have you made to residents from the time you began at the inception of the process?
Well, the code requires only 5 feet. I'm over 20 feet. In some areas, I have 30 feet of buffering. I've eliminated probably over 40 parking spaces. We have changed as much as we could. The landscape lighting, take the lighting off of the building, have made meetings with Matt to say that at night, because the main entrance is in the middle of the building, we would less light the rear side of the parking lot so that more people are driven to park in the front to not be opposed to the neighbors. And it's only a few months out of the year when you get to the time change that the lights go on earlier. Otherwise, in the summer, the lights are only on for staff to leave and early in the morning when they walk in.
For your civil engineer, you started at a certain level of parking, isn't that correct? You had stated that?
Correct.
What was that? I missed that. I'm trying to take notes and listen to this.
317 is the minimum requirement. I didn't do the, we actually have a professional consultant for that. I am also capable of understanding parking as well. But to answer your question about revisions,
You have to understand, all of us have to turn around and see your laser.
Oh, yeah.
We have it in front of us, so.
We have right here the revisions that we've gone through since the very beginning. So it's been over 10 revisions that we've been working with.
Okay, and that microscopic print there, how many have you been through?
Mr. Greco?
There's at least 10 that we've gone
Oh,
You need to
you in the
speak
mic.
to the
Can't
mic.
hear you.
I'm sorry, there's been at least 10 revisions that I've gone through on the site plan.
Right. And to answer my question, how much parking percentage-wise did you give up? You said you were down to 5%?
We're down to 5%. Originally, we had closer to 20% over.
Right. If there's, Mr. Enright, if there is any zoning in the future that needs to be done, in other words, if they needed more parking spaces, they'd have to come back before the board to get additional zoning for that, correct?
Yes, that's a condition.
So that would mean another process for a business in Arlington Heights to go through with regard to this.
That's true.
How long would it take?
Hopefully not 2 years, but seeing that if they build this plan, there wouldn't be much of an opportunity to provide more parking, it could probably go through the process in 60 days.
How much is your project worth, sir?
If you look at the shell, the parking lot alone probably be about $1.5 million to $1.7 million because of the grade cutting and the infrastructure. And the parking lot has to be built first before we can build the building, because the building will occupy the current parking lot. So it'll be a two-phased project. So it's a complicated deal. And then just depending on the shell could be another $1.5 million to 2.
Plus all the interior and everything else.
That's not counting the interior build-outs.
So how long is this project expected to take once you get approval from this board, if the board were so inclined to do so?
We're looking at about 18 months.
So you're talking about 3.5 years to get this project off the ground from inception to getting it to where it's occupancy?
Well, we're probably 8 months just for the infrastructure of the parking lot, getting the financing and, moving forward to do the parking lot first.
Right.
And then basically everything else would work hand in hand as we secure the tenants and leases and bank financing to finish the building.
Right. Well, what I've seen is, from reading through this and from looking at the property and listening to you, this affects about 7 or 8 homes. And it seems that you've done a great deal in attempting to accommodate them. Are you in favor of hashing that back 7 spaces so that nobody parks there? Because I am concerned also about safety, just having the fire department come around. Reading through the police reports on the fire and all the rest of the issues that were there, I think that is a safety issue for me, keeping that open.
We would be more than happy to hash it off. It's mainly in my interest, knowing what we have to do to have snow removal. That's like one of the best spots to plow. With the islands over there, you destroy the islands, you destroy the trees, you destroy the plantings. So you're pushing towards the retention pond, you're pushing towards the back, and then you're grading towards the building. It's a very difficult site to plow.
It's interesting to see the grading with regard to the difference in the height between the parking lot and the actual homes and where the lights would hit, because that was one of my concerns when I went out there. But looking at it and then seeing this, I think you've alleviated a lot of the concerns. I still think the motion is good after the discussion, Mayor, and I call the question.
The question's been called. I hope there was no one that wanted to make more comments. We have a motion and a second. I have to call. I can't take any more comments. Sorry, Trustee Rosenberg. Roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
No.
Trustee Sidor?
No.
Trustee Blackwood?
No.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
President Mulder?
No. I'd like to see a little more concession. We need to work. I wouldn't want to have a pile of snow in the back of my backyard.
To die.
Because they always get dirty and yucky and looking. And I don't know what we could do other than more landscaping, parking. Because I think the project's needed. it's development, it's what we need, not vacant spaces, but there's got to be some more respect to, these aren't like brand-new houses that were built in the last 2 or 3 years. They've been there for a while, and they've enjoyed the natural, but they didn't own it, so you have a right to develop it. What's the vote?
Mayor, it was a tie.
Oh, we've been there before.
Motion loses.
Mr. Dixon?
I would urge the board to reconsider this matter. Nothing new came out tonight. This went through the Plan Commission, who gave you a unanimous recommendation. We as a village sometimes get criticized for being anti-business. I'm not saying that business should run roughshod over residents, and I don't think business in this case has. This is an excellent proposal for a good land use, for an industry or profession that this community prides itself on. I think you will regret this decision. I think you should reconsider it.
Well, we don't have a decision. It's
Yes,
tied.
you do. Yes, you do.
It
It failed.
didn't
Failed,
pass.
so
Okay. So by that, it fails.
Tie vote does not carry.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Well, again,
Motion
to
can be
reiterate,
reconsidered at the next board meeting
I'm sorry?
under Robert's rules by a party. Pardon me?
They could reconsider it tonight, too.
Or we can
reconsider it
reconsider tonight or reconsider at the next board meeting.
Who has to make the
That's
motion?
the desire of the board.
The no.
Has a motion to reconsider must be made by a party who voted on the prevailing side. Prevailing side was to deny it.
And let me say, I know this is tough for the board. We encounter this regularly in Arlington Heights, where business wants to do something next to residential. And I think this petitioner has done all that reasonably can be expected. And I think, I don't say it very often, I don't ask you to reconsider it hardly ever, but I think you should reconsider this, because I think this petition has done what it can. It has no variations requested, and I'm surprised.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Well, I mean, the reason I voted no was because the way it's written right now, it still says 6 foot, where we talked about 9. And I'd like to see 9 foot anywhere that there's a single-family home, so along the backside, both corners and around the side. I don't know what you call it, the south side and the, I guess, west side. And as well as the conditions didn't also make clear about that hashing on the back spaces either. So if those were changed and the petitioner is willing to put those 9-foot arborvitaes all along the south and the west, I'd be willing to go along with this.
I'd remake the motion
Those are certainly
with those.
conditions we can agree to. And we've said that we would, and to the extent that that needs to be made a condition, we are absolutely agreeing to both of those conditions.
We agreed today or even Friday to Matt to increase the size of the trees to 9 foot.
And I mentioned that in my testimony on more than one occasion tonight, that the petitioner did agree to go to 9 feet. It's also in
It's
the
not
memo.
written, though, in your...
But unfortunately, the conditions did not reflect that, so.
They would have to be
Come back on an
changed.
ordinance.
I believe the petitioner did indicate on both occasions that they would agree to the 9 feet and to the hashed parking area. That was one of my specific questions to the petitioner when I was asking.
Trustee Farwell?
No, I think you guys just, hit it home. I thought it was in the discussion that it was the 9 feet and that you had agreed to the hashing. I know, I could understand Trustee Rosenberg's misinterpretation possibly, because after you would agree to the 9 feet, your agent here, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Civil engineer.
Began to play with the sizes. My
apology.
Right, I totally get it. So, but I think at the end of the day, it was the petitioner, and the petitioner said 9, and the agreement was for the hashing. So, I think to move this forward, not to be the Robert's Rule of Orders technician here, but we do need a motion to reconsider and, run up the flagpole again if, in fact, these issues have already been agreed to. But it has to be a motion by somebody who voted
on the
against it.
prevailing side, which was a no.
Right.
One question is, how often did you meet with the impacted residents?
It's at least four occasions, maybe 5. We've walked the lots with them to try to talk about which trees we could save. We met with my first landscape architect once. He met with you a second time?
One time.
Second time? And then a third time?
Never at the village together.
No, but I know, at the third time, we walked the site together.
We only met one time. One time on our site.
I disagree.
Our answer is one time. We got to walk through it. One time, 0 for them.
Your letter was addressed to us.
Okay, we're not going to be able to pick up all of this dialogue because we're not having everybody on the mics, but it just,
They've agreed to it.
I don't have a problem with the project in essence. I just feel like there's ways to, I'm looking at these homes. I know how long they've been there. I'm familiar with the area. And the thought of a pile of dirty melting snow for, depending on how cold the winter is, could be
Mayor,
months.
can I address that, please?
Yes.
I'm more than happy to put it in as a condition that if I'm given like a 2-week period of time under a heavy snowfall, I would decrease the pile of snow at least half its size. It's like, I don't know how much snow there would be, but we're more than happy to haul away snow. We do it now. So I can always move the snow from that back pile under heavy snowfall to get the building open and put it in a retention pond for it to go away. So I can move snow. That's just like a staging area for the removal to make sure that the facility is open and the fire lanes are open.
It's important to be a good neighbor.
I believe we've done our very best to do that.
You owned one of those homes. What would you like to see? Do we have
If you want
motion?
to modify this whole project, there's 2 or 3 points here. You could move to reconsider and then either refer it back to the Plan Commission or to refer the matter to the next village board meeting if they want to come back. But you're going to have to move to reconsider either tonight or to the next board meeting. And it has to be by a party who voted no. If you do that, a motion to reconsider brings the matter back to the village board precisely where it was before the last motion was made, at which point in time you can consider any changes in the plan. And bear in mind, ultimately you have to adopt an ordinance on this one. So any action tonight is simply going to be ultimately a direction to the staff to prepare an ordinance if the matter is reconsidered. If it's not reconsidered, then it's dead.
Is there a trustee that would make a motion to reconsider?
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
trustee Rosenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second motion to reconsider.
Any second?
It can be anybody to
Be
second
anybody
it?
to second.
Anybody can second it.
Anybody can second.
I
A motion
second.
to reconsider must be made by
Motion
a
just had to
party
be made by
prevailing side.
Trustee Sidor?
Do we have to vote on that motion now?
Correct. Oh, and did you have a comment you want to
After
make?
we vote on the motion, if we're going to open it back up, I'll chat for a few moments.
Voice vote, we'll try that.
Roll call on a motion to reconsider.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes.
At this point, the matter is before the village board as if no motion is pending.
So we're back to the end of
You're back to
testimony
where you were before the motion.
prior to the other vote.
Mayor, I would
Okay, Trustee Rosenberg and then Trustee Sidor.
just to make we need to make a motion if we're going to go past 11 p.m.
Second?
Okay, a motion by Trustee Rosenberg and seconded by Trustee Farwell that the meeting will continue past 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
6 hours.
5 a.m.
Hope there's somebody bringing breakfast. Okay. To continue the meeting beyond 11 o'clock, which is our ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Trustee Sidor.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly, I was in the same spot Trustee Rosenberg was, because the way the motion was written with the 6-foot-tall arborvitae shrubs, as well as the, I was unclear whether they were going to hash over that, those 7 spaces. If we're able to do that, I think I would at least feel a little bit better about voting yes for this project. But we would need to amend the motion, I would imagine.
I think that those are the same issues I had problem with in the pile of snow. And, you know, to not have it extend beyond a reasonable time, a couple of weeks, I think was
It would be less than that. As soon as we can get a
depending on
bobcat.
temperatures, it could take a long time to melt.
Well, we'd be able to move the snow to the retention pond.
Okay. Trustee Glasgow.
Madam Mayor, I would ask the petitioner, would you agree to the 3 stipulations that have been added this evening? The
Yes.
snow, the hashing, and the 9-foot tall?
Yes.
And that's part of the record now? I would make a motion to approve the petition with those 3 additional conditions.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee Farwell. Any other comments? Trustee Rosenberg.
Just a technicality. It's actually it's actually 1 additional condition and 2 changes on existing conditions, if that's okay with Trustee.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
6 and 1, half dozen of
I
another.
know.
Trustee
I'm just
Rosenberg.
trying to be technical.
I know it's late.
Okay.
And the seconder agrees with it.
Second.
Yes, that'd be fine.
Okay. Roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. What a difference a day makes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay.
Ordinance with the revisions.
Yep. Thank you, and got quite a bit of paper here. No ordinances or resolutions this evening. That concludes new business. Is that correct?
Board of the Village Manager.
Sorry. Can't turn the page. No appointments, petitions, and communications. Trustee Sidor?
Just for everybody out there, it's Small Business Saturday, so after, what is it, Black Friday and Thanksgiving and all the holiday shopping that's been pushed up, please frequent your small businesses and help them along these days. We could use it. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Trustee Farwell.
The Santa Run, I don't think we'll be on, I don't think it'll be another formal board meeting with the Santa Run on December 1st, is that right?
Yes.
Rotary Santa Run?
That's correct, and I think we need to talk about, we all know Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Tree lighting.
But the tree lighting on Friday, the program, I believe, begins at 5, if not a little bit before, with some of our student singing groups. It's always been a tradition, and I want to thank publicly the Caputo food stores for sponsoring little lights, so everyone get there early so they don't run out like they did last year when Mariano sponsored them. So thanks to our food stores, we're going to have a little extra. And most importantly, it's the culmination of our celebration of being the Village of Arlington Heights for 125 years, which is a significant celebration, and no words can express the appreciation that I think we all should show to the members of the 125 committee for a fantastic year, and we hope to recognize those members at an upcoming meeting. I've been asked to read a resolution, proclamation recognizing National American Indian Heritage Month. I'll try to expedite the whereases. The history and the culture of our great nation has been significantly influenced by American Indians and the indigenous people. The contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States. Native American Awareness Week began in 1976, and recognition was expanded in Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Heritage Month. In honor of the National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historic activities have been planned. Now therefore, I, Arlene J. Mulder, Mayor of the Village of Arlington Heights, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2012 as National American Indian Heritage Month in the Village of Arlington Heights, and urge all of our citizens to observe this month with the appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, and appreciation for that very heritage. I thank you for that. And again, we have a lot of holiday celebrations support by joining your neighbors on Friday of this week to turn our holiday lights on in North School Park, second to none. And I believe we've been ranked nationally as one of the best holiday, number 3, Mr. Dixon, number 4? 4, the 4th best in the nation lighting display for the holiday season, which is remarkable. And we've known it, but now everyone else knows it too. So please participate in the many activities that don't cost any money, don't take any credit cards, just being with your neighbors. And of course, the Rotary Santa Run, a sight to be seen, see thousands, and they think upward of maybe 1,500 Santa Clauses all at one time. So it's a wonderful time, and I invite all of us to join, hopefully, the temperature. Mr. Dixon, I believe you're in charge of weather.
Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, Chamber of Commerce. I hope to see all of you there. It'll be a very special evening. Any other announcements or comments? A motion for adjournment into executive session, Mr. Dixon?
Well, I would just say, Mayor, in light of the hour, it's been a long evening. If the board wants to defer this, you could, but if you want to go ahead, I'm prepared to ask for a closed session.
Anyone feel they want to defer it? Okay, motion for a closed?
I'd requested closed session per 5 ILCS 120/2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for purposes of approval of minutes or semi-annual review of minutes, and per 5 ILCS 120/2C1, appointment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Farwell, seconded by Trustee Hayes. Roll call.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. Thank you all for sticking with us for this late evening. It's been worse. Was expecting no report out from the executive session. So this meeting's now adjourned into closed session.
I had last week. This is the first night. My eyes really look okay. I had a first blood vessel.
I'm jealous.
The hair from that thing, not having anything.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's right.
cheaply done.
Where I was too.
Incredibly annoying, and I couldn't stand it, so I did start it.
They do.
The
I've
state
done
ought
it.
to be
And they have a
informed
wonderful
that if they're gonna be so cheap.
Sure, we can get a little bit lower.
And the
Agreement that we can still make it by.
The other thing is to be so sacrosanct with setting a password that you have to have a special character for something that doesn't involve billions of dollars is absurd. Well, but you are the officer. You can carry that back to the state. Really, for somebody who has eye problems, that is a crappy site. I mean, I had to turn my head from it every couple of minutes. So as far as I'm concerned, it ought to be destroyed.
I will let the agencies know that it is theirs. We're financially responsible to not diminish the.
Obviously, I feel strongly.
Apparently you do, that's okay.
It needs to be done.
It's not a major redevelopment for the community.
On the levy at 1.2.
But it's a
agenda, there's like 40
building.
Check the bill. And we lost, well, we didn't have anything for finance.
Service to the community.
I think, well, Tom Keeney was, it's gone. I would give it.
The petitioner was not sitting.
No, it's
He
not.
lives in town, okay.
I was just wondering.
Well, he testified,
Anything else? The
Bill?
Yes.
Does anybody want any of these brochures from
You can
the?
leave them there.
Oh, you mean on this last one?
No, not the board,
Hopefully we
the
can-
village, Trustee Glasgow.
I think, I kept seeing shaking heads that they weren't meeting with the residents. Had to push them a little. I normally count, and I didn't pay attention when I
I
made it
know,
die.
I didn't either.
And I thought, whoops, okay. But I didn't feel like they're giving enough. You know, residents, they were here first. And you gotta respect it. And I think they,
Then